Huh?
Yeah, I'll take a break.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for being here today at our board meeting on today, June 24th. I'm going to go ahead and ask for a roll call, please.
Fan City. Seaside,
Here.
Veranda,
Here.
Delray Oaks,
Here.
Salinas,
Here.
County of Monterey,
Here, Wendy Askew for Glen Church.
Pacific Grove, Castroville,
Here.
Monterey,
Here.
Marina Coast.
Here, and there is no one under the age of 18 listening in from my end.
Okay. And with that, we'll go ahead and move to item number 3, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll ask Supervisor Askew to lead us off here.
What's up, everybody? Please begin.
Which is under indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, with that, we'll move to item number 4, additions to the agenda.
No additions.
All right, and with that, we'll move to item number 5, approval of agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Go ahead.
Second.
Okay,
Whichever.
we'll take it out to the public. Anybody want to provide public comment? That will bring it back to the board. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote, please.
We didn't hear you, sir. Can you repeat that
I asked for a roll call vote.
before that?
I went out to public comment. So if somebody wanted to make a public comment on adding additions to the agenda.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll bring it back. And we'll go ahead and do roll call, please.
Seaside,
Aye.
Veranda,
Yes.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey. Aye. Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
Yes,
Motion carries 9 yes and 1 absent.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 6, public comments. So this is for public comment for items that are not on this evening's agenda. So if you're here to speak on something that's agendized, this is not the time to provide public comment. So go ahead and open up to public comment. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? We'll check online. If the folks want to use the raise hand function via Zoom. Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back. We'll move on to item number 7, the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move approval consent.
Second.
All right, with that, we'll go out to the public. Anybody wish to make a public comment on the consent agenda? Checking online as well for folks to use the raise hand function. All right, with that, we'll bring it back to the board. Any last comments? All right, roll call vote, please.
Seaside,
Aye.
Veranda,
Yes.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey. Aye. Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
yes,
Motion carries 9 yes and 1 absent.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to item number 8, committee reports. Number A, or letter A, is Budget Personnel Committee. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Or, I'm sorry, the minutes.
So move.
Second. All right. With that, we will take it out to the public. Are there any public comments on the motion? Checking online as well for folks to use the raise hand function via Zoom. All right, with that, we'll bring it back to the board and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Seaside,
Aye.
Veranda,
Yes.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey. Aye. Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
yes,
Motion carries 9 yes and 1 absent.
Thanks, Chai. And with that, we'll go to item 8B, which is Recycled Water Committee minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to receive, Your Honor.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, moved and seconded. We'll go out to the public for public comment. Anybody wish to speak on this item? We'll also check online for folks to use the raise hand function via Zoom.
Is this for the little card we filled out to speak to the public on the comment or is? that-
Nope. I'll
Not-
make
not
sure it's
yet.
really clear. I'm imagining that everybody is here for one specific item, and I'll make sure it's really clear that everybody understands.
10-4, thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay. With that, we'll bring it back to the board. And with that, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Seaside,
Aye.
Bronda,
Yes.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey,
Aye.
Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
Yes.
Motion carries 9 yes and 1 absent.
Okay, so now we're going to item number 9, which is our public hearing items. There's 2 public hearing items. This first one is, I'm assuming that most folks are not here for this one. So when we get to the next item is when folks will want to provide some public comment. So I'll make sure you know. So we're going to go to item 9A, which is consider adoption of resolution number 2024-07, declaring liens against real property for delinquent sewer user charges. And with that, I'll pass it to staff for presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm just going to give a brief introduction to this. This is something that you have seen in the past every year around this time. And it is just to put liens on properties that are delinquent for paying the wastewater service charge to Monterey One Water. This particular year, you see the large list in the agenda. There are 2,809 liens. That represents about $2.12 million in not paid service fees. There are penalties that are associated with these, as you mentioned, as you know. We've talked about this before, certainly at the last budget hearing. The penalties accrue after 1 month, and there's a late charge, and then after 60 days, there is an additional 1.5% late charge that goes on top of it. As you know, our delinquencies range 4 to 7% per year of all of our accounts. We have about 63,000 accounts. Generally speaking, within a 5-year period of putting a lien on a property, we do get 98% of those paid. So we get the revenues, it just takes a little bit of time, and unfortunately, there is a lien and penalties associated with it. At this point, we'd be happy to answer any questions, or the request here is to adopt this resolution so we can move forward with the lien process. Please.
Chair Williamson, Director Carbone has joined the meeting remotely for just cause and needs to make an announcement so that we can proceed with allowing her to participate. So just
Perfect. Mayor Carbone, can you hear us okay? You're muted on your side.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Did you have anything to announce in regards to your remote participation?
Yes, I am out with an illness and I am actually in Caldwell, Idaho, by myself in a room, bedroom, so no one around. So I am joining, and I was unable to get back to Monterey to join the meeting due to illness.
Well, we appreciate you being here tonight and wishing you a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we'll bring it to the committee, to the board for any questions for staff on this item. All right, I'm seeing none in the chamber. Any of the board members online? All right, with that, we'll take it out for public comment. So anybody have public comment on this item regarding liens? Please. Is there anybody online? Ask folks to use the raise hand function via Zoom. And just because a quick heads up, you'll have 3 minutes for public comment.
Yeah, as a member of the community, I would hate to see that anybody has a lien put on their house for not paying some type of local fee. It's my view that California hates its citizens. That's a personal view. I believe that housing goes up and pushes people out. I believe that taxation is done in a way to where people with homes are overtaxed. And I believe that there's a deliberate push to take away people's homes, so that way people have to buy the homes at a higher price, so the state can then tax more and bring in more revenue for itself. The word lien, for me, not knowing much about what this is a hateful word. And when we talk about homelessness in our community, it's the biggest thing that we talk about. Every week we have people come in, every 2 weeks, talk about homelessness. And the lien itself points to more homelessness and demonstrates the county's inability to support the homeowner. There's a fallacy that people that have homes have money. And there's a lot of people out there that don't have money. They don't have money for water. They don't have money for food. And they should be supported and counseled or whatever it is, but put a lien on somebody's house is cruel, right? And there's 1,001 different ways that we describe governments that threaten people in this way. I'm not going to use those, but you can use your imagination and try to figure out if there's a way that you can do your business without creating or threatening in a way that creates more homelessness in a county that's struggling with homelessness today. Thank you.
Good evening, Jose Guerra, represent Monterey community. The word lien is very hard to word. This word, you're telling people that you can't pay a certain utility bill, you're gonna take their home. Forgive me, but that's a little ridiculous. There's a lot of funding out there. There's a lot of public funding. There's a lot of help through the state, to the federal government that we can look for. And the people that are in charge of that division should be looking at that and not looking at, let's take somebody's home. Let's help somebody. If you keep taking people's homes, and if you intend to do so, I'm not sure if you are, you're gonna have more homeless people out here. And I know you guys don't like homeless people in your side of town. I mean, I don't like them in my side of town. I don't like them in my neighborhoods. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I know that they've had a misfortune. Something's happened, something probably like this situation here. But we don't know. You know, it could be mental health, it could be other issues. But before we start taking people's homes, let's find a solution to help keep people in their homes. And again, you know, a functional environment, a functional citizen is a lot better than a homeless citizen. In the respect that he will oversee it. He will help, he will do it. And he could probably help a homeless person. You never know. He might lend a hand. We need to lend a hand to each other. We need to come together, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, and become one united front again like we used to be. We need to do that. We need to care about each other. Please, don't take people's homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please.
Solis, I live in Seaside, California. I actually have questions. So am I to understand that the 2% that don't pay after the lien, the water company actually owns the home?
So just so you know, public comment, there's no back and forth discussion. So you can ask all your questions, and when public comment closes, we'll make sure to get those answers for you.
What other measures are taken for the lien?
Thank you. Anybody else? Just double checking online again. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on the liens item? All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment. And actually, before I pass it to staff to answer the questions, I just have to say that, and I'm sure staff could speak more to this as well. But I know that this agency, at least I feel comfortable in speaking on behalf of myself and my colleagues here. We have no desire to want to be penal to anybody. The goal is to make sure that we're accountable to all of the ratepayers and making sure that everybody that's a member, a service member of our agency is doing their part to help contribute to what we all depend on or take for granted, which is our wastewater treatment. I know that one thing that we implemented recently is the customer assistance program. So if folks are struggling, they have the opportunity to apply for the customer assistance program if that's an option that's needed for them. And I know that staff does take great measures to reach out to folks. I'm sorry, I hear some voices in the back, and I just ask for folks, if you want to have a conversation, maybe step out because it's a little bit hard for folks to hear. I can see people trying to lean in when folks are talking. My last point I'm trying to make here is that I know that staff makes great effort in trying to reach out to folks and really work with them before they put them on the liens list. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to staff to answer some of those questions for you.
So I can certainly go over the outreach that occurs prior to getting to the lien point. You have to be, and I'm going to ask for some assistance here. The bills currently go out every other month, and you have to be behind at least 2 billing cycles prior to entering this process. So that's 4 months worth of service that someone hasn't paid for. And then we actually send, 3 notices over a series of months. So hypothetically, March, you get a notice, April, another notice, June, another notice. And if the property owner hasn't paid, then we're continuing to see increased unpaid services. At that point in time, we do put people or put properties on the lien list, and it moves forward as we are today. So the range of time frame from when you haven't paid to when it hits the liens is generally going to be at least 7 months, if not more. And in addition to your bi-monthly bill, you've received 3 other pieces of mail saying you're delinquent, please pay. I'll speak in general terms on, I think, some of the requests of, hey, what else can we do? And as you pointed out, Chair Williamson, we do have a customer assistance program that the board requested staff to develop, and we have developed. And in fact, there's a report in the agenda today that goes over the number of people and in the community that have accessed it. And in reference to those state and grant funding, I think certainly the board knows, but for general information, we're scouring the state and the federal side of things. A board member many moons ago requested that we have a more robust legislative advocacy program to identify those pockets of funding to help our community. Certainly not just in this realm, but also elsewhere for capital projects and other things. So we continually keep an eye on that. We do have consultants both in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. helping us with that to try to leave no stone unturned.
Can you just enlighten everybody too in regards to that point you were just saying about getting grant funding from state, federal sources, how that really, and I know it's somewhat disconnected, but just to kind of give an example of the impact that that has on rates for customers, can we speak to the expansion and how much the overall cost is versus how much grant funding we received?
Certainly. So the grant funding that comes in, it's very rarely is it just general grant funding, as you can imagine. It's more specific to help customers to pay for a project that's specific, whether it be a drought resilient grant or a climate change grant or whatever it may be. What Tyler referenced is, you may or may not know, we're undergoing an expansion of our Pure Water Monterey facility, which is providing recycled water for this community. That expansion, which will increase our production from about 1/3 of the demand for our community to over 50%. It's about a $77 million project. As one can imagine, these are expensive infrastructure projects. Of all the grants we applied for, both federal and state, we got about $42 million of that 77 in grants. So the direct effect to the customer is the cost of water is greatly reduced. So bringing money into this community for projects like this is something that we've focused on because there is a direct relation to customer price of water, or in this instance, service fees for wastewater.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments?
The lady asked what happens to a property once
Hmm.
the lien
Hmm.
is filed or is whatever applied.
Thank you. So yeah, in the first year, we get about 85% of the liens people pay, the 2.12 million for this particular year. And within a 5-year period, about 98%. And I'm going to ask Peter and or Rachel if they have any information on this, but we don't go take anyone's homes. Now, it is truly a lien that is on the tax rolls or at the tax assessor's office, but that unfortunately doesn't get paid to us. It does continue to accumulate penalties and fees, also unfortunate, but it is just revenue that we don't realize. So what is the net effect of that is we have a budget, we're a public entity, so our expenses and our revenues do match. There's obviously no profit or anything like that. So if we're not getting revenues, you know, if you all are customers and 2 of you aren't paying, we have to raise the rates for everyone to increase the revenues to match the expenses to treat the wastewater, recycle that water safely and purely.
Okay. Any other comments? I can also entertain a motion
I'm gonna go ahead and move the recommended action.
for a second.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
Chair Williamson.
Please.
Do have a question for Mr. Gilpin. So when a lien is placed on a property, assume that it's not paid for 4 or 5 years, paid off. Does the property get foreclosed on as a consequence of our lien?
No, typically not. The only time the property would be foreclosed upon would be through a tax foreclosure sale initiated by the county, which is an extended process. I don't have it in mind. I think it's 5 years or something out for delinquent taxes. Then there's like a 2-year process after that for foreclosure. So no.
And that is for property tax, failure to pay property tax, not failure to pay service fees to Monterey One Water.
Correct.
So in the end, even if someone didn't remove the lien by paying what they owe us, at some point in time when that property is sold, the lien is then paid off. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll go ahead and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Anthony,
Aye.
Seaside,
Aye.
Rhonda,
Yes.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey. Aye. Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, with that, this is the item that everybody is, I'm imagining, here for. Item 9B, consider adoption resolution number 2024-08, authorizing the collection of sewer service fees on the property tax roll, and adoption of resolution number 2024-09, certifying compliance with state law with respect to sewer service fees. That I'll pass it to staff for presentation. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Jim, just a procedural question. Does he need to?
Oh,
open the
I'm
public
sorry.
meeting?
No.
I should follow my
Staff report first, then open public meeting. Thank you. So just as an introduction to this item, we've been talking about this for about 1.5 years now, in terms of moving from our current billing system, which is through a third party, to the county tax rolls, similar to other entities, not only in our community, but also similar ones in the state. Okay. Um, in this last year and a half, we have done significant outreach to the community in terms of close to a dozen public meetings, if I'm not mistaken, in the Salinas Valley, up in Castroville, as well as here on the peninsula. Mailers have been sent to all of our customers, like I mentioned, about 63,000. And of course, it's been on our website. So there's been a significant amount of outreach, and we've tried to address some of the comments and concerns that have been brought up by the board. Many of those had to do with the enhancement of our customer assistance program, expanding the amount of funds available, as well as expanding it to renters. I'm going to actually say Rachel and Mike have been doing a significant portion of that outreach into the community and trying to get the information out there as best as we can. In addition, a number of our member entities, we do the billing for them. And when I say a number, it's Seaside County Sanitation District, City of Monterey, City of Pacific Grove, City of Salinas, and Moss Landing, which is under the auspices of the Castroville Community Services District. So we've come alongside each of you to have that billing continue. If this moves to the tax rolls, that your respective portions will also move to the county tax rolls. Let's see, I think 3 of you have approved that of going to the tax rolls. 2 have yet to. They're supposed to go tomorrow, depending on how this item goes today. I think I've talked about sort of what we've done to address some of the concerns. Obviously, there's also the pros of moving towards this that we've discussed at length. Certainly, as someone mentioned, not moving the close to 3,000 people to a lien process every year like we have in the past. That is significantly reduced. What the county has said is their delinquency rate is closer to the 1%, 1 to 2%. So far less than what we see, as one can imagine. There's also efficiencies gained because the county does the tax roll process for all the parcels anyway. So instead of having the additional funds to have a third party print, mail 6 invoices a year to all those 63,000 accounts, that would be savings that would go then into the general fund or balance within the Monterey One Water wastewater fund. I think staff has done a tremendous job in outreach, developing the database that would then go to the county in the correct format. We've also, like I said, in delaying this the year that we have, the county has contracted with Easy Smart Pay, which allows your property tax bill to be paid on a monthly basis versus just those every 6-month payment. So to try to attenuate some of that, the pain of large payments twice a year, which I think is wonderful for the county as a whole, and also helps out with our amounts that we put on. Now, what does this mean? So we have our monthly bills a little over $50, like $52. So we're talking about $600 per year that is going to be put on the tax rolls from the Monterey One perspective. Each of the member entities have their.
Excuse me. I'm going to ask folks, I know that this is emotionally charged topic, but I want to make sure that we stay respectful. So if we're going to have interruptions, I'll have to ask people to leave the room. Thank you.
So our Monterey One fees, like I said, are for a single family dwelling are about $52 a month. So we're talking 600 and change for the year. Each of the member entities have their sewer charges on top of that as well. Hence the reason having you come alongside of us and bill with the county at the same time. Those fees vary from, I think Castroville does not add anything to the Castroville Community Services area, but does to Moss Landing. And like I said, each of them are different. Those would generally be added on to the tax rolls as well for those 5 entities I just mentioned. So there are significant efficiencies gained and less duplication of effort. With that, we can certainly answer any questions, or Rachel or Peter or Jim, if you have anything else.
Paul had asked me to cover the administrative process that the board is going to go through tonight. As all of you know, earlier this year, the board did approve moving forward with the process to put the fees onto the tax roll. It's a process that's set forth in a state statute that allows agencies to do this. It has a specific process that we are required to follow. It required us to prepare a report identifying each of the parcels and the amount that would be charged to each of those parcels during the year. It required us, in the first year of doing this, it required us to mail a notice to each and every property owner, identifying that we would be holding this public hearing to allow them to come and be heard, protest. We were also required to publish the notice. Notices were mailed out to all of the property owners on May 25th of 2024. Notice was published in the newspaper on June 9th and June 16th. In the interim, there were some changes in property uses, which are identified in the report as highlighted. The agency also contacted any of those parcels who had changes from the initial report and told them about the changes in the amount shown in the report. And those amounts are shown in the report that's in front of you tonight. We are now required to have a public hearing where we allow the property owners for you to hear and consider their objections. If you got a majority protest, which would be roughly over 26,000 protests, you couldn't pass the resolution. At the end of the public hearing, after we close the public hearing, you'll be able to deliberate, and then the board will consider adoption of the resolution, which must be adopted by 2/3 of the legislative body. As it currently stands, I think we have 787 protests that have come in. So that's all I have.
Okay, with that, we'll bring it to the committee, the board for any questions to staff at this point.
I have questions. This is for the general manager. In looking at the staff report, there is a portion that discusses the benefits of this change. And one of those benefits that's identified is payment options. It says more payment options are available for payment of property taxes, including providing customers with greater flexibility in how they pay for wastewater service. As I understand this process, I don't agree that it's going to increase in terms of flexibility for payment, because it's my understanding that the now payment options that will be provided to consumers is essentially two. You can pay it when your property taxes are due, or you could pay it on a monthly basis through the easy pay process. But it's my understanding that means you have to pay your entire property bill in that monthly subset on a monthly basis, right? So if you're going to pay your property taxes on a monthly basis, that's going to include the Monterey Wind Water. You can't pay Monterey Wind Water separately on a monthly basis. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's my understanding of the Easy Smart Pay. It has to be the entire property tax bill plus all those other fees. They'll just divide that total by 12, and that's the monthly payment. So you're absolutely right there.
Has there been any conversations with the county about the potential for creating an option to pay the utilities on a monthly basis? Because utilities are separate from property taxes. So to allow for residents to pay Monterey Wind Water's bill on a monthly basis through Easy Pay?
Rachel, can you just respond? I know you've been primarily interacting with the county staff. I don't believe there has been those discussions because of the nature of Easy Smart Pay, but.
Correct. We have not had those conversations with the county.
There's another bullet point here, which is referring to efficiency. And you mentioned that this will result in a savings to the organization that will go towards the general fund. In looking at the concerns that have been raised by members of the public, this potential for, well, not potential, but this $400,000 savings But also looking at the fact that we have a 50% reserve, do you think that, and does that 50% only apply to capital projects for Monterey Wind Water, or does the 50% apply to the entire agency?
So the reserve policy, and oh, sorry, it's going to be a circuitous answer. The reserve policy actually says we have reserves for 50% of the operation and maintenance budget. So chemicals, power, all that sort of stuff. And then we're trying to get a 10%, well, a 10% reserve for capital projects. So there's two components in the reserve policy that we're trying to attain.
Mhm. And which of these would go towards a savings of what? Operations?
For the 400,000, generally speaking, towards the operations and maintenance costs.
Which is currently at 50%.
Yes.
Okay, so taking that into consideration, would it still be financially reasonable for the organization to continue to operate this program, considering we have a 50% reserve?
To operate
the billing program?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It would, and not just because we have that reserve, but also because the way the budget is currently set up, it has been the cost of invoicing and all that has been included in the budget.
And the reason I bring up that difference is because as an organization, our primary purpose is to serve our consumers. And as I look at this change, I do think that it will benefit the organization as Monterey Wind Water financially, but I'm not convinced it benefits the consumers financially. So that's why I pose that question. And so the other question that I'll pose to you is, if this board were to provide direction to not proceed with this action, what would that look like for you from an operational standpoint? Do we have the billing process still in place to allow us to continue to bill from this point on, or what would that look like for you?
Great question. So if the board were to not approve this, we would continue with the third-party billing that we have. We would have to go to each of the member entities that have gone down the path to approve the county and just work with them to make sure that they're still good and our memorandums of understanding are still consistent with us doing the third-party billing, but we would just continue as we have in the past. And then, of course, there is the outreach that would occur saying, everything we just sent you, we're not doing that. We're going to shift back.
So if this board were to not make this change, there would be no interruption to services whatsoever.
I don't think there would, but
Not an interruption to service, but we would also need to begin the process of looking for a new billing vendor, because what prompted this change were challenges with our billing vendor. And so I think long-term, if we were to stay with direct billing of the customers, we cannot stay with the current vendor.
Understood.
And that was one of thanks for bringing that up, Rachel. That was one of the impetus for this change is we were going to put an RFP out for another billing vendor, and the county, being that they do the tax rolls anyway, was one of those options that we proceeded down the path, like I said, a year and a half ago.
And then the other question that I have is, if the board were to choose another option of perhaps not choosing to say no completely, but if the board were to say, we understand the direction you're trying to go in, but there are still so many outstanding questions to be answered as it relates to the financial impacts this will have on people's lives. Not only that, but the challenges that are going to be posed to individual member agencies that want to consider doing billing on their own. Would it be appropriate for this board to choose to delay this action, maintain our current billing process, and have this conversation a year from now when we've answered those questions from the public, had more outreach, and had the opportunity to give local agencies the ability to have a discussion internally about setting up that process internally for them?
The board could certainly decide that. And I think the board did that about a year ago when we were going to move forward with this, that y'all said, hey, can you hold on? We have a number of questions that we have.
Okay.
And that's what we've been doing for the last year and a half. So absolutely that could occur.
Yeah, sorry for asking that redundant question. I was not on the
all
board
good.
a year ago. But and my last question, so this was raised to me from a constituent about the impacts of this change. And what they shared with me And I'm going to share this in the form of a statement and ask for your answer in terms of whether or not you know this to be true or not, or clarify whether this is not accurate. But I was told that if someone does not pay their Monterey One Water bill in the new system we're going to have in place, which would be your property taxes, the penalties that will be levied against that person, the cost will be on the balance of their property tax payment that particular time. So if they pay it every 6 months, right, and they're fined, it's going to be a fine on top of the balance as a whole, and they would have to pay the balance as a whole, so that the payment, the penalty could be dealt with. So essentially, you can't get on a payment plan to pay a penalty on Monterey One Water's bill. It would be on the entirety of your property tax bill that you're going to pay in that moment. And my concern with that is, then that would allow for, it would create the environment where someone could potentially lose their home because the penalty continues to increase, the balance owed continues to increase, and they can't separate that amount. And so do you think this creates an opportunity for people to lose their homes based on that balance continuing to increase?
So I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know if we have any other info from the county in reference to that, other than.
Let me ask a way simpler way of asking. I don't know
Okay.
like that. So if someone were to be late on paying their payment, did not pay their payment,
Their property tax payment.
Yes, but more specifically, the Monterey One Water bill, right? What would that look like for them moving forward? Because our current process is you have a lien placed on their home. What would it look like moving forward under this new process?
So my understanding, if someone paid all of their property taxes except for the, $52 a month for a single family dwelling, it would fall under the county processes as it sits because it's not full payment of their property taxes. And so if you don't pay it for 3 years, the Treasurer Tax Collector's Office is required to publish a delinquent list. So after 3 years, they would publish a delinquent list of parcels that are out there. After 5 years, the real property remaining in tax defaulted status may become subject to a tax collector's power to sell. I'm not sure if that's just what is on their website. I'm not sure exactly how that would be applied for the Monterey One, or just any small portion that isn't paid, whether it's us or Vector Control or any of the others that are out there. I don't know do we have any other information on that specifically? Okay.
And the tax collector's power to sell does not apply to our current billing process because it only exists in the form of a lien if someone doesn't pay it.
That's a good question. So as you've stated, Jim, our lien is not under the auspices of the treasurer or tax collector of the county, which has that power to sell.
Well, I think under the circumstances, if it were the same and the property owner did not pay that amount, it would fall under the same process. So if they hadn't paid it for 3 years, they'd hit the delinquent list under our current system. If we liened it, and after 5 years, they'd fall into the tax sale provisions under the current situation, because that would be after the lien is placed on the tax roll.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that interim step.
So there's the same end result.
Except I think under our current process, it provides people more time to pay that amount. Because now if you're not paying that amount, you're not paying your property taxes. Whereas with us, as you mentioned, you have that 7-month essentially grace period to figure it out. And I guess what I'm trying to highlight is the
additional 12 months, the way we process things, because you're adding liens every 12 months.
Right. So
if you're delinquent for 12 months, if you're delinquent, we're going to lien it at the end of 12 months. So you've got that 12-month period before it's going to hit the taxes.
So the tax collector's power to sell, I think, is where Anthony is asking. So it being on the tax rolls, it's a 5-year trigger for that. In our current process, potentially it's a 6-year trigger because we mess around for a year, it goes on a lien, and then there's 5 years. So it does, I guess, shorten that by potentially a year.
The change would shorten it.
Yes.
By how much can you use?
1 year. So their power, the tax collector's power to sell is triggered after 5 years of non-payment. Someone could not pay us for a year, then we put it on the tax rolls. And then it's 5 years for the tax collector to do whatever they need to do.
Thank you. Those are good.
There's a 6-month period in there where under this new system, you're not going to pay your bill for 6 months.
That's true.
So
Understood. I'm just trying to, I guess, understand what the severity is now in the event someone would not be able to pay it, because our current process is different than what will be established under this different systems. I'm trying to better understand what that looks like for someone who's unable to pay.
No, that's helpful. I appreciate that.
And those are all of my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Please.
So one question I have is how many special service districts like us are doing this type of billing in the state right now?
In the state?
In the state, roughly, just ballpark it, county, even start with the county, but I don't think we're the only ones that do that.
No, this is fairly common.
Okay.
Certainly just locally, I know Carmel Area Wastewater District, Vector Control Districts. I was talking with the general manager of Central Contra Costa Sanitary District, a large district in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
They serve 700,000 people.
County Water Resources, I believe, zone
Oh,
A, B,
yeah, Water
C,
Resources
D.
does. Yeah, so it's
listed there on my other side of my property tax bill that gets really long.
This is fairly common, yes.
So this goes right onto that part. It doesn't go on to my 1.2% or what, 1.1. Okay. So I think that's one of the things to look at is this is very common. This isn't like we're reinventing the wheel at all. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Can I ask another point of clarification?
Sorry, real quick. Could we make sure that other folks
Of
just,
course.
and then I'll loop back around with you.
Tom's on the line.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you had okay, go ahead. You start and then I'll go to
Okay, thank
Tom
you.
next.
So as an alternate member of this board, I haven't been privy to the history of the conversation, but I was just wondering if you could briefly describe what direction this board has given that this isn't the first time this board is being asked to take action, and what the history of that board direction has looked like over the past, how long?
So I'm going to guess it's about a year and a half.
Sorry, yeah.
I'm sure we can get more detail, but in about we first brought this to the board, like I said, a year and a half ago. Thought this was an appropriate way to look at the various options, as Jim alluded to. The board at the time said we need more information. So yeah, what are the ways this will impact people? What are the ways to try to attenuate that, whether that be through customer service, et cetera? So we put a pause on moving forward with it and went into an outreach phase and investigation phase. That culminated late last year, like October timeframe, we brought this back to the board and provided all the information, October of 23. And then February of this year, we actually brought back to the board going, do we want to move forward based on all this information that we've acquired in the last close to a year? At that point, the board did direct us to move forward with going through all the steps to put the fees on the tax roll. And so that's what we've been doing since February. Part of that, and the reason we needed a long runway, is to work with the various member entities in their billing as well. So just to summarize,
Sure.
last year it was, hey, hold your horses, get some more information. We came back in October, provided information, got a nod of the head. February, it was an agenda item just like this that was voted to move forward.
And in February, was that a unanimous vote of the board? Was it a split vote of the board?
Was that unanimous, Chai, or do we, pardon me?
Pretty sure.
It was unanimous.
Unanimous vote of the
But
board.
we will confirm that.
Okay, and then my last question is, you mentioned there were 750-ish protests received out of how many customers total?
60.
187 out of what I was told was 58,598.
Okay.
So
Okay, thank you. It's just one more question. So then, for a homeowner who has their mortgage holder who's paying into their mortgage, like an escrow account. So if they're paying into their escrow account every month, and then the escrow account pays for the property tax bill when it arrives. How does it, will those escrow accounts then increase by an extra $52 per month to make sure that they have, is that an automatic thing that happens, or is that on the homeowner to make sure their escrow account knows that this change has happened? How does, will that notification automatically happen for mortgage escrow account holders?
So generally speaking, that the mortgage company is one that does this. And I haven't talked to every mortgage
Sure.
company out there,
Yeah.
but I'll give an example of my own, which went up last year. And the little payment coupon increase, they said, hey, your fees went up, not the property tax, but the fees. So you owe more per month.
Mhm.
In addition, we received this question that mortgage companies, they have a cushion or reserve in the impound account. So in addition to my $52 a month, if I'm in Castroville, for instance, there's going to be about a 3-month additional reserve that the mortgage company is going to want to have. So there'll be an additional $150 that's built up over time. So about $13 a month in that first year, and then that's reduced. So they would like a little cushion in there at all times.
Which makes sense because we have so many agencies who are pulling money in, and then the taxes come up, and everyone has their property tax bond that shows up, and the school district taxes that show up. So that those are all being adjusted on an ongoing basis then. Okay,
Yes,
that,
and I
that answers
just-
my question. Thank you. Thank you.
So the just for the action taken in February at the February 26th meeting was a unanimous decision 10-0 to move forward with the proposed implementation plan for placing the sewer fees on the tax rolls.
Thank you.
Okay, and Committee Member Moore.
Yes, thank you very much. So some time ago, I had the question of whether or not there were any benefits to our customers for making this change, besides the benefits to Monterey One Water and some savings that would ultimately translate into rates not quite going up as rapidly as they otherwise would have gone up. So for a certain group of our customers, there are a couple of small benefits. For those who have been historically paying every 2 months this $104, they won't be writing 6 checks a year. They'll be writing 1 or 2 to pay their property taxes. So a little bit of postage savings there. But I also calculated with current interest rates, if that $104 that you were sending to us every 2 months, you instead put in a savings account at 5%, which is eminently achievable today, you would be accruing probably between the postage and the interest on that account before you had to pay your property taxes, enough for a slice of pepperoni pizza and a drink at Costco. So it might buy you lunch. Small benefit. Thank you.
My question is going to be, how many other utilities and utility companies in Monterey County place this on the property taxes? Are we the only other public agency utility in Monterey County? Because
Carmel Area Wastewater District does, Pebble Beach Community Services District. I was just talking to Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, and one of their fees is on there as well. Do you know of others? Water Resources Agency, Groundwater Sustainability Agency, school districts, obviously, mosquito and vector abatement. They're a public entity though, but they're not a utility. You're right.
okay, that was my only other question.
I mean, that's sort of the ones we're aware of. We can certainly do a more comprehensive look if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I just have one question. Can anybody expect their rates to go up due to the transition to the tax rules?
The wastewater rates will
Specifically the fee from M1W.
No.
Could you
not
clarify?
any more than what our Prop 218 allows us to within the rate study itself, but no. Going from one billing entity, AFTS or third party, to another billing entity will not increase those fees.
And then just to expand on that a little bit further, for an example, City of Monterey is a member agency that does have our own sewer fee that ratepayers see on their current bill. And the City of Monterey, we've decided to increase our sewer fees, which is separate from this process. And so am I accurate in saying that people may see their rates go up, but that is not due to anything in regards to the changes within M1W transition to the tax rules?
That is correct. I mean, any of you can increase your respective rates for sewer services that you charge, but it does not reflect anything to do with ours.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
One last one on my
Yes, please go ahead.
Just to clarify, what I recall being voted on in February was on the implementation plan of how to proceed. It was not on whether or not to make the final decision to proceed. That's what we're doing here today. The change was initiated in October of 2023.
That's accurate. In February, you approved
The
staff
implementation.
moving forward with the implementation plan. Every year, if you were to do this in June of each year, you'll have an opportunity to consider the report that's prepared and whether to place it on the tax rolls. So every year, if you could elect to put it on the tax roll. Next year, you could elect not to put it on the tax roll. So it's an annual thing, and you are accurate that this is the meeting where you approve the report, which would put it on the tax rolls. The February direction was simply to move forward with
The implementation plan.
the implementation plan.
Which
yes.
included the outreach and the deadline we had to meet before July 15th. That's what I
Yes,
recall.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and if I understand correctly, that last approval was done after the big push of the outreach, where these public meetings were held, where we received a lot of the public comment in regards to the process. And really that approval at that time was a strong indication of the direction that we intended to go into, right? Because why waste staff resources, time, community gripes over a process that we weren't interested in moving forward on? But is that correct?
You can look at it that, but I think legally it didn't commit you to
100%.
what action you're taking today.
100%.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Otherwise we wouldn't be here.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. With that, we will open it up for, oh, hold on. Let me get my cheat sheet here. Okay. So I'm going to open up the public hearing on the collection of the annual sewer service fees on the County of Monterey property tax roll. So we're going to go ahead and start in the room. I think I'm just going to call for public comment. I'm just going to do this. So anybody who wants to join in, actually, I'm sorry. Before we
You have
jump
the-
into that, can we get a sense? Do we have cards?
So Chai has, I think, 11, you said, and then however many we have online, but Chai can call people up so people don't have to
Is
wait.
there anybody else in the room that has a card that didn't give it to staff yet
Right
for
over
public
here,
comment?
Alma.
And then for folks on Zoom, if you want to go ahead and use the raise hand function, I just kind of want to get a sense of how many folks that we have that want to speak on this item.
Oh. Yeah, is there one more or no? I'm not sure if you have one back there.
No, he's taking them.
So I see,
Oh,
I
okay.
see 3 folks online. And how many cards do we have?
13.
We have 13.
So 15 now.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and start in the room here. We'll go ahead and give folks 3 minutes.
If I can have the next 5 people I call, please stand up to the podium. Jody Scheisel, I apologize if I'm saying your last name wrong. Joe Williams, Linda Lauderdale, Anthony True Varlet, and Tanya Anistratenko. Jody, if you can approach the podium, please.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity. I was here in February to familiarize myself with this resolution. I have several questions because I'm unclear about the rates. it's my understanding when I attended in February that it was a $52 a month. That was the lowest rate, but that covered 2 months. Perhaps that's incorrect. We also talked about how people were going to be charged. Were they going to be charged by square footage of their home or consumption? I have a 500 square foot condominium and I'd sure hate to be charged the same rate as somebody with a 2,500 square foot home. So I'd like clarification on that. Also too, in February, we talked about the processing fee that the county would charge for doing this work. Do we have that clarified yet?
And then we'll answer all the questions at the end.
My last concern is very concerning for people who own condominiums. Because in the complex I currently live in on Casanova, there are over 100 units in that complex and our HOA fees include our wastewater fees. And I don't think there's any way at all we're going to get our association to lower our HOA fees $624 a year. So basically, I'm going to be getting this hitting my tax record because I am an owner. And I'm getting it hit with my HOA fees. So I'm paying almost $1,250 a year for wastewater fees. I think that's high. I'd also like to, I don't know how other associations handle this, but I can tell you how ours does. There's over 100 units in there and we have a fair amount of retirees in our unit. And I don't think anybody's going to say CalAmerica, PG&E, food, gas, and all these other things are going up. And at what point are we going to price people out of their homes? Thank you.
Good evening. Chairman. And the members of the Monterey One Board. I'm one of those who protested. And I'm alone. Unfortunately, there's not 30,000 other people who were protesting according to the rules, but I recommend you vote no on this resolution. My bad optics. It makes you guys look really bad. And I'll tell you why. Despite the rigorous state transparency requirements, makes you look like you're hiding future rate increases. I looked at the website and I saw now there was an increase from like $32 for an apartment or house back in 2021 to today. It's $44 and next year I guess it'd be $50.95, which, you know, over the last 4 years this has gone up 60%. I mean, this is significant. I mean, everybody's getting hit hard. I mean, but just because the state authorizes it or an assembly bill to say, yes, you can do this, that doesn't mean it's a good idea to do it. Or should do it. Now, like all the other homeowners and condo owners, we're getting hit. We're getting hit by the state. The county's been pretty good to us for the most part, but you know, the city, there's a lot of taxes in there. It's not, well, they say it's not a tax, but it's an expense. Let me put it that way. It's something that I don't care whether you call it a tax or not, it's an expense that comes out of your pocket. Whether you're a homeowner or whether it's part of the rental registry in Monterey. Now, one thing I found of interest on the website was wastewater projects by fiscal year by millions from 2024 to 2028. This is going to be really interesting, explaining how it goes from 10 million to 32.2 million in about 2 years. And you get to pay for it. Or it's going to be a challenge for you because I saw the revenues coming in from different sources, and well, you're very good at what you do. But a yes vote for this resolution is a serious disservice to customers. I love Mr. Rokas.
So that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just for future speakers, I believe you can see up here, it might be kind of tiny, but you should see the timer there just so that you have a point of reference of how much time you have left. And if you can't see it if you can't see it up there, you could look up to your left. You can see it behind you on the big screen. So just so that you have a point of reference, I don't want to cut anybody off, but I want you to just be aware of how much time you have left. There's 3 minutes on the timer for everybody that speaks. No, you're good. Please, next person.
And if you wouldn't mind, please state your name for the record.
Timer starting now. When the timer ends.
Sorry.
Say.
I'm protesting and I hope everybody says no. Because I live in Pacific Grove and my monthly is not $52. Mine is $157 for every 2 months. I am a retired healthcare worker on a fixed income Social Security. Now this, adding it to your taxes is very hard for a lot of us, especially Pacific Grove. We're pretty much a retirement community, always has been. We're very small. But financially, a lot of people cannot afford this to be added to their tax bill. In my situation, with my taxes, okay, but to add $1,200 for me to pay in one lump sum, for a lot of us in Pacific Grove senior citizens on low income is just not right. That is what we call financial elder abuse. And a lot of us neighbors, I've been in Pacific Grove, I was born and raised here, and I plan on staying in my retirement. So what you're doing is you're forcing people to shop into their homes that they've lived here all their life on their simple little income. And I beg all of you to vote no on this. It's not right for the senior citizens. You know, we paid our dues. And I don't know, you keep saying $52. I wish, where's that? Can I live there? You know? $157, I swear to God, that's what I'm getting charged. And I'm only one person in the house. I have called Monterey Water once, or actually several times, and I ask them, you know, I'm one person and I have to pay this much. You know, why aren't you charging for the number of the household or whatever? And you have no answer for me or for anybody. I've tried to call the city of Pacific Grove. They're good at passing the buck on the phones and never answer. So I have, you know, I'm probably speaking up for a lot. I worked with a lot of elderly senior citizens throughout the year, and I know their struggles. Now I'm there. And it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Catherine True Varley. And my husband and I bought our house in 2006. He passed away 4 years ago. I'm on somewhat of a fixed income. It's I pay over $9,000 a year in property tax. So I pay about $4,500 every 6 months. That's just me alone. So adding this to property tax doesn't work for me. It's been fine to pay it on a bi-monthly basis, every 2 months, I believe it is. My bill has been about $121. And I barely make it. I'm a part-time teacher. I'm not totally retired yet. I could be. But can't really afford it. That's it. That's pretty much the simple gist of it. So it works better for me to pay it on a bi-monthly basis. Thank you. And I mailed my letter. And I also delivered. You got me 3 times.
For the record, we only can it once, though.
Temco, and I'm a Pacific Grove resident. And as Mrs. Lauderdale said, my bill is $156 every 2 months, not the 50. And that needs to be just put out there. I believe that for people who don't pay their bills, I'm not pointing at you folks, I just mean in general. People who don't pay their bills, they need to get a lien put on their property. Why should I be penalized? Who pays their property taxes every year? Who pays your bill every 2 months? Amongst other bills, why should I be penalized and put the billing onto my property taxes? That's my stand, is I don't like being penalized for people who do not pay their bill. That's what a lien is for. That's what your lawyers are for, to do that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair Williamson, can we go to the virtual participants?
Absolutely. Let's do that.
Okay, we will hear from the following people. First, we're going to hear from Pedro, then Gloria, and Mabel L. Go ahead, Pedro.
You guys need to speak way louder.
So this is so for everybody in the room, we're going to have an opportunity for folks online to speak public comment. So we'll listen in now. Everybody hold tight. Hold tight. There's folks that are going to jump in now.
Pedro, go ahead.
Excuse me. Hold on. Just hold tight. Go ahead, please.
Pedro, go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Pedro? I'll go ahead and go to the next speaker. We will now hear from Gloria. Gloria, go ahead.
Okay, I've unmuted. My name is Gloria Gehring, and I'm a commercial property owner in Salinas. I also was one of the ones to protest Monterey One's proposal to collect sewage bills on property taxes. Sewage bills are not approved taxes. It is a hardship for owners already paying huge cost increases, including sewage costs. Owners having to opt out and protest is a process that hurts small owners and discourages commercial investments. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from Mabel. Go ahead, Mabel, and you are muted.
Oh, I see. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Great. I am in the same situation as the first woman from Casanova who spoke in person. I also live in a condo, about 600 square feet. I am 80 years old and retired. And she brought up my concern as well. I live in a tiny apartment, which is a condominium. The HOA was until now covering, prorating the wastewater bill like every other utilities. We have 141 units in my condominium, and we have a single meter. So how are you going to, this is my question for both. What criteria are you going to use to prorate the fee in a condominium with 141 units and single meters and make that criteria to be fair to everybody? Same question the lady in Casanova had. Of course, the HOA is not going to reduce the $60 or whatever. I believe that a flat fee for everybody is absolutely unfair, unrealistic. My 600 square feet, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 1 person living here, I'm the sole resident. And I will be paying the same fee as a single family residence that may house a family of 6, I don't know. Or, so my question is a matter of fairness. So I'm protesting this fee. Thank you.
We will now try to hear from Pedro. Go ahead, Pedro. You are now muted. Go ahead. And Chair Williamson, he is unmuted and he still can't. Pedro, you are now muted. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, we will, you can try again. I'm going to go ahead and call the next 5 people in the public, please. Rosalind Lambert, Isabel Teresa, Peter and Ingi Zalai, Jose Guerra, and Amanda Chafin.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I don't understand how a business can just decide that they don't want to bill anymore. The average business, everybody bills, all right? I understand that they're having some problems with their billing agencies, but there are a lot of choices out there for billing agencies. Also, I'd like to address the fact that you said that you gave a good enough public notice. No, you did not. 1 month public notice is not adequate, because the rest of us should have an opportunity to organize a protest campaign. And this has limited us. I feel that this was done sneakily and on purpose to give us only 1 month to protest. The fact that you need over 24,000 protests, too many people are busy. They have too much going on in their life. I'm gonna guess that half the people don't even know what's going on. Now, the next thing I want to address is the fact that you guys, Monterey Water One is getting a raise every single year. You guys already pre-approved that 5-year raise increase every year. Well, if you're not going to bill and you're saving $400,000 a year, I believe the board should say, no, you don't get that yearly raise. I am a property owner. I have renters. Sometimes my units are empty, and my renters usually pay. So if my unit's empty, then you guys don't get payment. And I think that's appropriate. It's not being used. The service isn't being used. We shouldn't have to be paid. What is to stop the garbage company and the PG&E or whatever, everybody else, all our other utilities, from putting their fees on our tax roll once this is allowed? And now my other question is, if we are able to create a campaign and get our 24,000 protests, does this have to be done every single year? I understand we have to have a hearing every year for you. But do we have to do the protest every single year? Because that is horrendous. I believe that this thing should be solved once and for all. I'd like to put it on a ballot measure. I'm asking our leaders here that we put this on a ballot and take care of it once and for all. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Isabel Teresa from Salinas. Being said, I love it because I think of some of the same things. I think it's trouble for a lot of people to get up to large sums, their taxes, and them to do the sewer system also. I think it's too easy for overcharging. I don't see why there should be a pairing. There's different situations that people are in. Some people own more than one property. I know somebody that's had 20 properties. If he writes a letter, does he get like 20 votes? If he owns 20 properties that he rents out? There are some buildings that have been closed for years. I know there's a house a couple of blocks from me. It was boarded up for years. I don't think buildings that are closed up should be charged any sewer system because no one's using the plumbing. I also believe that, yeah, it was kind of late notice. I think the way I found out was in a bill. I don't read the bill every time. I get a bill, I pay my bill, I get it off in the mail, and I don't read every word. I happen to just read through it, and here is they want Monterey One water for the taxes, and I don't want to do that. So I went to a meeting. I missed one meeting because I was already busy, so I went to the last meeting of 2023. It sounded like it was already a done deal. When you look on the Safari in your telephone, Monterey One Water is going to start doing their charging on the tax stand. So I think there's not enough notice because why didn't they send a letter? I just got a letter 16 days ago about this meeting and that people should write their protest letter. 16 days is not enough for people to get 24,000 or 30,000 protest letters going. So I think it was very short. Why wasn't that letter sent last year so that we had the whole rest of this year to get all these people notified and it's working on this thing? What else I have here? To me, it sounds like the Monterey One Water has already made the decision. I don't think it's fair to charge by the square footage. I'm one person. I do have a 1,944 square foot house. I thought I was going to get married and have kids and a husband, and it just turned out to be me. So I'm one person. I don't have that much sewage. I'm a retired teacher. I've been invited to meetings. Always get your input.
That's
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Peter Zelai, Salinas. So you guys are unfair and not very friendly to customers. And so you guys have one vote for a population of 164,000 people, and you have one vote for 324 in Sand City. That's insane. And think about what you're doing here. Most other utilities, we get it every single month. Your electric bill comes every month, your gas bill every month, your water bill every month. Why you guys every 2 months? That's already a hardship. It's already unfair. It's already unfriendly, right? And so our bill is a flat bill. Doesn't make any difference how much we use or how much we don't use. It's the same amount. Why? Unfair, unfriendly. The electric bill, the gas bill, the water bill, how much we use. You guys just take whatever it is that you want every 2 months. This is my mom, her house. She's been living there since 1972. And so I built an ADU in her backyard.
And so our bill doubled. It went from $98 to $197. Why? When I called over here, because it's the same, it's one hookup, even though there's a separate house now, it's a detached ADU. It could have been attached, or it could have been a garage conversion, but it's the same thing. We're all hooked up in the street, they're the same, one hookup, right? And they said, well, if it would have been an attached ADU or a garage conversion, because you're a caregiver, you would only have to pay half. But since it's detached, you have to pay double. Makes no sense. Unfair, unfriendly. A utility is not a tax. A utility is a fee. Like the lady says, what prevents other utility companies from lining up to the assessor's office to collect all of their money on a 6-month basis or a yearly basis? What makes you think that your particular utility should be collected this way? They are completely unconnected, unfair, unfriendly.
Yes. Hi, good evening, Jose Guerra. I reside in Monterey in Salinas. And I am very upset with this bill. I'm gonna say no. Reason why is because a lot of people are on fixed incomes, our military men and servicemen and women. We have people retired from the medical field, people retired from other agencies that are on a fixed income, a government paycheck usually. I'm one, so I'm going to say that it's unfair. So the other thing I don't understand is that you guys said that you had a abundance of information given out. Was it on the internet? Was it mailed to me? Because I got this letter on Saturday, by the way. So what's today? Monday? Wow. So the postman don't like me, or you sent it out late. One or the other. The city one even got before you guys here. I got city one a week before. So I don't know who's running a better campaign here. Well, what really bothers me about that is that the programs you have, how are you utilizing for the people that do need to pay? And like the young lady said, why should you penalize other people that don't pay their bills? You shouldn't. But if there's programs, utilize them. There's what, 8 of you, 9 of you up here? And you're on your phone, sir?
Yeah, I'm typing notes.
Yeah. That's typing notes, disrespectful. You can read them. I'm just saying, I'm gonna call you out because that's very unfair for me to listen to all of you, and for you to be on your phone. Like, whatever I say doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm just letting you know. So, going to that, I want to say, what internet services you use, or what programs did you use to help people know about this? Because a lot of these people that it affects are elderly people. They don't do internet. You know, they don't go out of their homes. A lot of them don't. So did you go out and reach out to them? Did you have a community hall meeting? Because in Salinas, I didn't see it. No one sent me a memo, and I'm all over the place. No one sent me anything. So I don't understand how you can all sit up there and a year ago, you vote on something, or in February, regardless of the time, and then just, oh, well, we'll get back to it. That's not how it works. You guys need to organize. You represent people here. You get, I don't know if you get paid or not. We don't care. It doesn't matter. You're here to represent somebody. If you're not going to represent people, step down. If you're not going to do your job, step down. Let somebody else do it. Because Mr. Galvin over here is ready to take everybody's home in 5 years, or him or every other county. They're ready to go. This gentleman here, I can't even pronounce his name. Escutio. I mean, he's doing his job, but he could do better. I mean, he could reach out to people. There's a lot of people out here that can reach out and talk to elderly people. You're going to affect people who built this country, not just 20, 30 years ago, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, built this country. And you're taking from them. That is so unfair. And the last thing I want to talk about is.
Sorry, sir, that's your time.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, hey, thank you for having me.
Hi, I want to say two things, and then I'm going to read a statement. The first thing is that I live in the Baranda, and I pay a city fee to Salinas City, a Baranda fee to Baranda District, which is unincorporated, and the sewer fee. My sewer fee, just my sewer fee, has gone from $74 every 2 months to $145 every 2 months since I bought the house where I live, which is in Verona, over a period of 20 years. And I don't know, I looked at my tax bill from 2007, 2006. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is that the other stuff on the tax bill we voted on. We're not voting on this. We voted, or somebody voted to put the Veranda Bridge on there or whatever's on there, but it was voted on. Now I'm gonna read this thing. I, a retired person in my mid-70s, live in a small 850 square foot house with 1 bathroom. I live on a fixed income, a pension of less than $30,000 a year. I have a mortgage. I also read and speak English quite well, and am planning very carefully to age in place. In this area, there are many people who are my age who also have small houses with mortgages, who also live on small pensions, but who do not speak English so well. We elderly people have worked very hard to have houses, to be able to live carefully on our pensions in our own homes as we age. Putting the sewer bills onto our taxes will cause all of us hardship and put all of us at risk for liens being placed on our home, for huge interest debts to accrue, simply because we are not able to adapt as quickly to change as the younger, richer people are. It could put many elders in the position of losing their houses, the homes they worked so hard to acquire. A young rep from Monterey Water spoke to the Salinas City Council about an option to pay monthly. What she did not mention is that there is an added fee to this privilege that would, of course, put an even higher cost to flushing the toilet. Is this really worth Monterey Water saving on postage or cost of billing? Do we citizens of Monterey County really want to add to the already large population of houseless, homeless people living on the streets of our county? Is the greed of a few worth the suffering of thousands of good citizens whose only crime is to grow old and be poor? Thank you.
We will now move to those members in the virtual. We will hear from Renee Perry and then Pedro. Go ahead, Renee. Go ahead. This person is unmuted. Can you hear us? I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next speaker, and then I'll circle back. We will now hear from Pedro. Go ahead, Pedro. Pedro, go ahead. You just muted yourself. Can you unmute? Okay, we will move on to Chris Miller.
Can you hear me?
Chris?
Yeah, this is Chris Miller speaking. Okay, all I know is there was an update in Zoom within the last week or two, and that may have impacted the audio hearings settings, which to mute and unmute. So I'm just mentioning that. I listened, I was a participant in the August 24, 2023 hearing regarding this, and the person from the board who led the hearing was saying he heard all of our complaints. But first of all, I'd like to say that we have been encouraged over the years to be involved in our being involved within community, civil service activities and things like that. So I thought by me participating in these different Zoom things with Monterey One Water, that I would be listened to and it would help me. but I have seen a little bit differently as a result of my experience. August 24th, they said a lot of people complained. A lot of people asked about what's the possibility of opting out. The person from Monterey One said that they would look into the options and see about it. It was also so that they would look into adding the option to opting out. On October 30th, I participated in that same thing, and all you guys were voting, and it was all, and one person, when they voted, he had, after a long evening, you could tell in his voice, he was very unhappy. But they also brought up, and so, but Mayor Kimberly Craig from Salinas, she asked, well, what about this option that was raised to put in to option out? And she asked the attorney, a part of you guys, if that was done. And he said, no, it wasn't done. Well, that's kind of that's like 2 months after we were told in August that you guys were going to look into putting that as an option. So Kimberly Craig asked, well, can you add it? He said, no, I can't do it on the fly. So I was very disappointed that you guys didn't do what you said you would. Also, you mentioned, well, Contra Costa and some of the other places are doing the same things. Well, that's only a couple. What about the whole state? Are you talking only 5% of these agencies are doing the same thing? I mailed in a protest, and I'm very disappointed that my participation both, and also listening to what you guys said in August, that is it empty words? I'm very disappointed. Thank you.
So we will try to hear from Renee Perry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you for taking my call. I do agree with previous homeowners on all the points that they raised as to why this should not be on our tax roll. In particular, I do agree that putting it before it's put on the tax roll, it should be on a ballot. And sewer rates should be based on water usage, not a flat fee. It's just unfair. My other question is, if you put it on the tax roll, will that be a tax deduction now? Or, do you know how that would work? And that's really all that I have to say, because the previous people's, I echo what their concerns. Thank you.
Okay, we will now go to Patrick Cossum. Go ahead, Patrick.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't believe I got a protest letter in the mail. I may have misplaced it, but I actually would like to protest this as well, because like everybody said before, I don't believe that a utility bill should be on a tax, on the taxes. They're already trying to tax everyone up to yin yang in California for everything and everything. So I'd rather just not even have it on there. That's all I had to say, but thank you. You guys are kind of wrong for what you're doing. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
And then we will try Pedro one more time. Go ahead, Pedro. You are,
I would just offer to Pedro, I think this is our third or fourth time trying to come around to you. Maybe try, if you happen to have another device, maybe try to log in via a different device and see if that helps you. And maybe we can look at going back into the room here and taking public comment, and we can come back to the online in a second if you have a chance to log back in on a different device.
and we will now hear from the next 5 people in the audience. Zaya Jose, Ramona Oleda, Larry Tyndall, Malcolm Meiser, and Dana Mendoza. Sorry about that.
I don't know that. I would like to know some new things. I have a lot of. That he's verified. And, yes, lots. So I am against.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Yeah, there's outreach. We see the song. We have the privilege of saying good enough. Maybe. We have the privilege of saying that we utilize technology and stuff in the community. That was all this is the birth. People and languages. And maybe it's enough. Right. For those of you that are concerned with pepperoni pizza, I want to let you know that if you come to the round table on tomorrow, Thursday, in the month of April, we'll provide you with a strike. We cap out at $2,000. There's no tax benefit to this when it comes to any tax stuff. I don't believe that private business should be tied with minimum tax. Giving private business access to me and the way that I live in government, I think it's completely. You are attacking me, the case to me is that the people that are here are all people that need to be supported and listening to. And what we're going to see with Lightning, and you're going to go support of an organization of a company. Make sure you're back on it. We're going to adopt you as you do it. The idea that you would vote on something, the way that you deal with the outreach is that they put it on the ballot. And that ballot is distributed to every one of the citizens in the county. And then you vote, then you know that you reached everybody. Then you know that everybody's been informed. Then you know that all the political workflows that are there to empower us are there for you to do this. When the situation is like, he's on your being listened. Yeah. I think it's about that. I think you really have to really and I want to commend Mr. Yoker. He gave my heart confidence to me. But he's the only one of these that I saw ask intelligent questions, demonstrate concern for the citizens, who ask the question process that was going on. And I'm proud to be from Salinas and put it on the ballot. Know that it's fair. Do it right. Don't put the community. Don't represent the water. Represent the people in the room. These people need support in the way I'm telling. And I'm glad to hear the candidacy. After the things that will allow things that allow people to do all the service. Thank you. Yes.
Picking up anybody?
It's hard.
Is your mic working? Can you tap it? I'm hearing you. Okay.
You guys are really one.
Yeah.
Just okay. And even from the adjacent mics, you can pick it up and the volume from inside. So.
Okay, good. There we go.
Good evening. My name is Ramona. I'm a Seaside resident. Maybe it's me. I'm a-
Designed for the public at home to hear. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't speak very loud. My name is Ramona. I'm a Seaside resident, and I don't want to go on and on because I think everyone has said about the same thing, and I agree with all of them. And I know you probably don't want to keep hearing it, but we're all in agreement that it shouldn't be on our tax bill. I was wondering if there was any discussion on opting out. If that would cost less monies to a third-party agency, if there were less people paying directly to Monterey One, as opposed to having it on our tax bill. So I was hoping there would be some kind of discussion because I'd like to opt out of it. And as far as the decision to move forward, if February, you all made a unanimous decision on that, again, like said, it was not enough time for us to protest. That's it. Thank you.
I'm not sure if I'm next or not.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
My
go
name is
for it.
Larry Tyndall, and I'm from Pacific Grove. And I got this notice in my mail. I thought it was junk mail. I almost threw it away. And my wife goes, "Kai, I think maybe we should read this." But anyways, here I am. So my first thought is, I hate the whole idea. Totally, there's not anything about the idea. It's not going to benefit me. It's not going to benefit anybody that I know except you. So that's one general thought on the subject. The other one, a couple of people mentioned the idea that if you want to do this, that every other utility company would go, "Guy, that's such a good idea. Why don't we all join on? And then we can have everybody pay twice as much as their taxes." And so that's a concern for me. Which I think 2 or 3 other people mentioned that. Another one is being in California, we have a lot of decisions that are made for us that are really bad decisions. And one of them, like the utility company, I got a thing from PG&E, and they told me that my utility bill was going to go up 0.5%. And I got a couple notices 2 months in a row from PG&E saying the gas and electric was going to go up 0.5%, and it went up 35% at one time. And I checked it, double checked, and went back through all my records for a year. And sure enough, it really did go up 35%. And then they had things with the utilities. They had like a general cost, and the general cost was $25 on top of all the other costs. And then they thought, wait, that's not right. Why make a $25 general cost? We'll make it a $50 general cost just to pad the bill. And so I don't trust anybody. And when it comes to California, I really have a great deal of distrust about decision-making, because I think we have a lot of fools making decisions that affect us all the time. And one of them, like the people that control the price of gasoline in California, in 5 or 6 states at least, they pay half what we do in California for gas. So we pay twice as much every day, every one of us, with no explanation. I've heard the governor go, "I just don't understand it." That's our governor, because I just don't understand it. I know we pay 50 cents or 60 cents more for taxes, but that doesn't explain where the other $1.80 comes from per gallon. Another one, I know what for natural gas, that we pay 2 or 3 times as much for natural gas in California. These are all utilities and things. No explanation why it is. We just do. So we get overcharged for so many things. Decisions are made for us by people like you, bureaucrats, endlessly making bad decisions that affect us every day, which I really don't like. And another one I really love, because I've lived here for 50 years, is that for 50 years, I've had people talk about how they don't want us to add a water hookup for our house, to put a bathroom on it, because there's no water. And so for 50 years, we have no water. But then one government agency has ordered us to cut back water usage in California. From the Carmel River, they've ordered us to cut like half the usage.
Sir, that's time.
For 30 years. And anyways, so they tell us, one agency tells us that we have to cut back.
Sir,
And then
that's time.
everyone tells us they want to build 30,000 houses in Monterey County with no water,
Sir,
and they're not going to pay for it.
I appreciate it, but we have to be respectful of everybody having the same time. So your time's up. Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening. My name is Diana Mendoza. I live in Salinas. And I just received this flyer in the mail maybe last week, at the end of the week. So this is the only notification that I've received from Monterey One. No, I am not opposed to paying my Monterey One bill. I am absolutely not opposed to it. But what I am opposed to is Monterey One invading my personal private property taxes. So I am close to retirement, but you're making it hard for people to live on a fixed income and try to achieve or attain retirement at a very comfortable level. And I just want you all to know that you're all elected officials. And if you vote this in, the people in this room and other people that are protesting are not going to vote you back. And I want to commend Mr. Rocha because he is the only one in this room that has voiced an opinion to support the people in the community. And thank you, Mr. Rocha. And I will remember you on election day.
And Chair, we have Pedro making a second attempt.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Pedro.
Second, this
You-
is, no.
You are still muted.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Ah, home run. One thing I'd like to point out is the mailer that went out on May 24th went out as bulk mail. Bulk mail has the lowest priority for the post office to deliver. Unfortunately, the post office has its big problems in their own right. I received my postcard from Monterey One Water last Thursday. I went to my PO box on Friday and it was in there. So it was not there on Wednesday when I went. So I'm assuming it came Thursday, benefit of the doubt. I am opposed to putting this on my property tax bill. I find that for some reason, the board in their meeting in February, which I attended in person, every single one of them voted to put this on our property taxes. Clearly, the citizenry does not want this. Now, they say it has to be a vote of more than 50% of the people, 20-some, 30-some thousand people. Well, if I'm given 2 days notice to assemble 30,000 signatures, it's not going to happen. So bulk rate mailing does not work. It has to be first class mail in the future if you want to notify people. And I'm hoping that the board has the common sense not to put this through at this time or ever. People clearly want a bill bi-monthly. They do not want it on their tax bills. Thank you for your time. Oh, and thank you for being patient with me and trying to get on. I did switch to another device.
We have more in-house chat.
Are there any other public members that wish to speak? Go ahead and approach the podium, please. Are there any virtual participants that would like to speak? Please raise your Zoom hand. Leave it there.
Hi, I'm Velda Westfall. I live in Seaside. I protest this so much to have this added to my tax bill. As it is, living on a very tight income. I do have my own home. I'm paying for my home with a reverse mortgage. If I didn't have that, I'm 86 years old. I'd have to be working today to make house payments and all the added other utilities that everyone gets every month. By adding this to the tax bill is just going to make it so hard. My taxes, I pay twice a yearly, of course, $854 twice a year. And to add the amount for this water thing, $363.12 to that 854, that's $1,217 and change that I'd have to come up with at tax time. Not only is it tax time, but it's just before Christmas. I mean, we all have families who want to get our little gifts for them and stuff. This makes it super hard, super hard. And so I totally protest this. And yes, it should be a vote. We should be able to vote on this and say yay or nay. And of course, I'm going to say nay. So I thank you.
And
Anybody else in the room wish to speak on this item? All right, we'll do one last check online. I see Frank's hands up.
go ahead, Frank. Frank, who is up? There you go. Go ahead. Frank, who is participating virtually, go ahead. Frank, who is participating virtually, go ahead and make your comments. I'm gonna mute him, Chair, and then hear from Renee.
Did that already come up?
All right.
Okay.
Let's try Frank one more time because it looks like we're about to get ready to close public comment here.
Okay. Frank? Go ahead, Frank.
Okay. I apologies, Frank. I'm not sure why this isn't working, but we can't hear you on our end. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board. As an introduction, yeah, I have a few questions, but before I get to those, I just want to make a few comments. So there was some direct attacks on staff, and I just personally never stand for that. It's never appropriate to attack staff. They're doing the people's work, and they're doing what the board directs them to do. And so I just want to say how much staff is appreciated. If we vote to not move forward with the tax rolls tonight, they're going to do what the board tells them to do. If we vote to have them move forward with tax rolls, they're going to move forward with what we tell them to do. So I just want to get that out first and foremost, that we need to make sure that we're respecting our public servants that are doing the really challenging work of dealing with different ways of being able to handle things.
Chair Williams, just a procedural matter. Before you move forward, we need to get a motion second to close the public hearing and take a vote on it.
Thank you. And you did put that in my notes too, and I just kind of totally overlooked that. Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, so moved and seconded. Do we have to go back out for public comment on that motion, or are we good?
No, you can just.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Sand City,
Aye.
Seaside,
Aye.
Veranda,
Yes.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey, Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes,
Marina Coast.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
perfect. Thank you. And then at this point, I will announce now that the public hearing, well, actually, before it's already closed, right? So we're not getting any more votes at this point because of the motion. So public hearing is closed. I'm going to go back to my comments here. After the kind of clarification in regards to staff, I just want to appreciate everybody's participation. Because that's what this process is all about. We don't live in a vacuum here. It's important for us to be able to hear from the public. And it's why I think a lot of us do this, is to do public service. And sometimes we have to make decisions that are challenging one way or another. So I just wanted to give appreciation for everybody turning out today. And I have to clearly express that this conversation isn't about fees, the amount that's being charged. I know that there was a lot of public comment in regards to concerns around fixed incomes and the impact on rates going up. I heard different amounts that everybody pays. in regards to their Monterey One Water bill that they currently get in the mail, whether it was, I can't remember, it was 145 and I heard 157, I think somewhere. And I think staff will help clarify this, but again, the amount that's being charged on a monthly basis by M1W currently is $52 a month. Okay, with that, there's a few questions that I would just want to run through with staff. There was the question around $52 a rate covering for 2 months. Could you clarify that?
Certainly, as I stated earlier, ours is $52 a month, or is moving to $52 a month. The rates that people see on their bills, as I mentioned earlier, every member entity adds to that. So when we bill, and I'm going to pick on Monterey, when we bill for Monterey, it's our $52 a month plus Monterey's charge for sewer service as well. I think there was one lady that talked about Baranda, Salinas, and ours. And so I actually didn't realize Baranda and Salinas did as well, but I guess that makes sense in the way the system works. The Pacific Grove one over the years have increased to address some of their sanitary sewer issues. And so that's absolutely the case, but I'm focusing in on what our rates are for a single family dwelling, which is, will be going to, I think someone corrected me at $51.95 per month.
And then the next question was charged by square footage.
Yes. So there are a number of ways throughout the industry for wastewater charges to be done. Ours happens to be done based on customer class. So you're absolutely right. A single family dwelling, whether it be, I'm going to pick a number, 500 square feet with one bathroom, it's a single family dwelling, as is a larger 6-bathroom home at 5,000 square feet. There is an absolute inequity in how you look at that particular one. It is one of the many ways that the industry bills. I'll name a few others that I'm familiar with and probably would prefer, but that's not where we're at. You can certainly do it on fixture count, how many bathrooms you have or how many kitchens or things like that. You can do it on water usage as a percentage if every home in your jurisdiction has a water meter and the data is shared. You can also do it based on number of people in a home. That obviously requires additional staff to confirm number of people in a home. And it can go, you can get very deep into that exercise. It is an entire area of research at UC Riverside that does utility rate studies. So there's a number that are out there. Monterey One for its entirety has been based on this customer class. And if you ever look at our billings, it's single family dwelling, apartments, number of restaurants, whether it be indoor, outdoor, 1 meal per day, 3 meals per day. The board has directed us during the next rate study to take a comprehensive look at that. Is there a more equitable way to do our billing? Now, it'd be a wholesale change to our billing, so I'm sure we would fill our room at that point. But that's what we have committed to. We're going to do that in a year when we start our next comprehensive rate and fee study.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that answered your question entirely or too much.
I know, I think it was good. And to the idea of filling the room, I mean, this is good. This is exactly what the process is for, so that we can hear from the public in regards to how we should be doing business. The next question I heard was processing fee from county. How much is that?
4.25. Thank you. So we do have that information from the county, and it is a 0.25%. So it is, in the grand scheme of things, far less than what we're currently
Current
paying.
cost. Mhm.
And it's a 0.25% of your total fees placed on the roll. So that's approximately $177,000 for Monterey One Water. AFTS currently costs about $285,000.
Okay, thank you for that. Impact to condominiums was the next question.
And that was a really good question on the HOAs, that it's built into the HOA fee versus the individual parcel. And Rachel, you have done some work with the various types of HOAs out there. Do you have any information in regards to this, so there's not that double billing, if you will?
So the board did form an ad hoc committee on the outreach efforts related to this billing change. Within that committee, we workshop language specifically designed for HOAs. And depending upon how the vote goes tonight and we resume that ad hoc committee, we will continue to discuss that language and the targeted message to help both HOA management committees and residents understand the billing change moving forward, with the assumption that it moves forward tonight.
I think the big part about this too is that the discretion in regards to how to handle that truly rests with the HOA.
Correct.
Right. Which is, I think, some of the concerns that were expressed tonight.
But it is a heard concern and we are discussing it within that ad hoc committee and workshopping language as needed.
Why do I have to be penalized for paying my bill on time? Was one of the questions.
I gotta admit, I didn't quite understand that one. Because I guess, obviously, I'm from the perspective of this is, and I've heard from others that this is a simpler process for many. And so I don't see this as a penalty. No one is paying more money because of this. It's truly one billing vendor to another. So and I'll just pick one of them out here, the $157 every 2 months that you pay us, it's the same dollar volume that will be going to the county. So there's not a penalty in that sense. I guess I certainly understand there is a penalty if I look at, I want to pay my bill every 2 months, just my utility bill, where now it's twice a year. So I think someone brought up it's a larger amount. There is also one of the reasons the board asked us to look into it is the Easy Smart Pay option, which does break it down into a monthly pay, but that is for the entire tax bill, not just ours. So I guess I would love to have a deeper discussion to understand what the penalty perspective is.
Kind of information, Mr. Chair, that comment was made because it was alluded to that one of the reasons we were making this change was because of the delinquent
Got it.
residents. And so the comment from the member of the public was, why am I being penalized by moving this to this different billing process when I paid my bills on time?
Okay.
I may let you answer, but I just quick thought on that is I don't think that was the whole reason why we're moving. I think it was just a factor, and it speaks to the ability for us to run our operations and make sure that we are collecting the fees in order to not have to increase fees as much due to the fact that we're not getting all of the payments from those that aren't paying their fee.
Understood, but that was the basis of the question.
And I just wanted to be able to respond to that.
And thank you for that. So that the liens was not a driving force to make this change. It is, if I may, an ancillary benefit that we don't have to lien 3,000 customers out there, but by no means is that a driving force to do it.
Does the protest need to be done every single year?
Yes, but you want to.
There is a opportunity to protest every year. So I guess that's a way to, yes, you're going to vote every year as to whether to put these on the tax rolls. It's what the statute requires. But
there was a question around when information was sent out regarding the process.
It was sent out May 24th, May 25th. And yeah, I'm hearing that some of it was last week. And the gentleman, I think it was Pedro, who got through and said it was bulk rate. Yeah, we send our things bulk rate to try to be most efficient in costs as we can. There were a number of other mailers that have gone out over the last year and a half, though, correct? I don't know how many. A combination of bills and postcards, actually, both.
So we have used a variety of methods starting in March after you heard this item in February, where we convened the ad hoc committee on the outreach efforts related to this billing change. So we have been including special messages on the bill announcement since March. There was a direct mail in an envelope detailing the change targeted by customer group. There was an insert in the bill. There was the postcard or self-mailer that went out in May. And then leading up to the change, sorry, I have to switch.
Just to clarify, she's looking at, so a bill amendment is verbiage on the bill itself. A bill insert obviously is just that, an additional piece within that bill.
And then prior to that, leading up to the outreach done to collect feedback when you made your, when you hosted the meeting in October of 23, there were also 2 postcards, a special message on the bill, a message insert, 6 print ads in the weekly, Spanish radio spots, social media click-throughs, 10 community forums, 11 meetings with community groups, 10 public meetings with each member. And then we also have been visiting each of your members over the course of the last about 3 months as your councils have wanted to educate on this change and consider it for their individual entities. So we have been to Seaside County Sanitation District, Salinas, Monterey, and Pacific Grove. And Seaside County Sanitation District represents the city of Delray Oaks, the city of Seaside, and the city of Sand City. And I'm so sorry, we've also been to Castroville. We missed that one. So we were just there.
Okay, next one is going to tax rolls. Does it provide a tax deduction?
This will be a property related fee, not a tax.
Okay.
So that answer is go check with your accountant.
Yep.
There was a comment around, a lot of comments around privacy concerns. And so I guess I'm going to try to form it in a form of a question. Do we gain any additional data or information of customers with our transition to the tax rules?
I believe there's the county database does have additional data, property related data.
But we don't get that.
Correct.
So we are a public entity. We're not a private utility. That's very important in this. We are supplying the data that we have to the county for inclusion on the bill. So there's no data that we're receiving from the county that hopefully is of privacy concerns to anyone.
Okay, a few more here. I'm getting close to getting everything that I captured. So I'm just trying to make sure I get everything that I heard included in staff response here. Is there an ability for the agency to hide future rate increases? And can you speak to that maybe a little bit further?
Yeah, maybe Jim and I can both do this. No, we are still subject to Proposition 218, just like we always have, as entities are in the state of California, where we have to do a mailer to all of our account holders on a proposed rate increase. It comes back, not unlike this, to a public hearing that the board votes on. That process will still go on, whether the county bills for us or a third party bills for us. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I just had 2 comments because there were comments about how our rates have automatically gone up. But as everyone here knows, the agency adopted a 5-year rate schedule. We actually have a later item here, but those rates were set 5 years ago and have gone up relative to what the rates were set at 5 years ago. And as General Manager Shudo indicated, this has nothing to do with setting the rates. To raise the rates and in the future address what the rates will be, we have to go through a 218 process, which goes to one of the other issues that's being raised is how the methodology we use to determine the rates. And as Jim Shudo indicated, there are many different methodologies used by sanitary agencies. And, I think folks heard the concerns of people, if I got a 8,000 square foot house with 4 bathrooms versus something else, I'm paying the same. So you all could address that in the future, but that would be done, can't be done in this hearing.
Separate Prop
but it'd be a
218
separate
process.
Prop 218 process.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, and if I may, in reference to that, being that our structure is as it is and it's based on customer type, we do have fixed rates. So that is one of the things that allows us to use the property taxes, not unlike a vector control district or community services district and so on. When I have worked for municipal water companies, your rates, your bill varies by month. So that is not conducive to put it on the tax rolls. So that's oftentimes why you don't see those variable rate, what I accept into my home, my electricity, my gas, my water, don't necessarily make it to the tax roll. So there's a difference in utilities.
I think that actually connects. I don't know why I don't have it here, but I think there was another question around the rates and if properties are left vacant in regards to the fee that's charged associated with that.
So we actually have in our rate table, we do have a vacancy rate. So if someone moves out of their house, there is a different rate than if people are living there.
And can you describe maybe what the point of that vacancy rate is?
Yeah, and actually I tend to disagree with the vacancy rate because generally speaking, water and wastewater infrastructure and utilities like us, about the studies that I have seen show between 85 to over 90% of our costs are fixed. Those pipes in the ground, the $500 million worth of infrastructure that we have to take care of, whether you take a shower or not, or you do your dishes or not. So we need to recover, and I'm going to go on low end. Let's say it's 85%. We need to recover those costs, whether someone lives in a house or not. So with our vacancy rate, which is far less than our actual rate, in my opinion, it is not equitable across the board.
And
please,
is it okay if I add to that? We are also working with legal to develop a billing adjustment policy. So for commercial or residential properties that do become vacant throughout the year, or a commercial property changes its category. So you move from being a restaurant that is open for one meal to a restaurant that is open for 3 meals a day, and your category changes and it results in over or under billing. There will be a billing adjustment process that will allow us to work directly with constituents throughout the year to make those adjustments.
And then there was and I actually don't understand my note here, but there's a comment in regards to increases in rates since 2021, but I think you spoke to that already in regards to the 5-year rate increase. Empty unused. Oh, that okay, yeah. And then can you just describe the process in regards to the agency's consideration of the opt-out? I know that came up a couple of times, so I just wanted to be clear about our consideration, because I know that there was some expectation that it was going to come up in a certain meeting and it didn't, but I think it did come back and the board did vote on whether or not we moved forward with an opt-out.
Yeah, so once again, I don't know the exact timeframes, but it was last year at I believe it was a budget personnel committee meeting, the concept of opt-out came up. It was not brought up at the following board meeting by staff. So at the next board meeting, we did bring up this concept of an opt-out. We looked at it from a consistency perspective to the Groundwater Sustainability Agency or 3CE, the energy company. They have some opt-out provisions. They're frankly a little different beast when it comes to what type of public utility they are or public entity. So we crafted what we thought was a reasonable opt-out alternative and tried to cap it at a certain percentage of our overall accounts. So as we would still recognize the benefits of moving to the county tax rolls, but provide some flexibility. Through the discussions, and I believe this was in February by the board that did discuss that opt-out, it was not included in the final move ahead on the implementation plan. So the board decided, based on the relative benefits and or downside, not to include it in the implementation plan that staff has thus moved forward with.
Perfect. Okay. I think those were all the questions that I captured from the public comment. So with that, I'll just open it up for the board to, please, Anthony.
Thank you. I also want to echo the comments of Chair Williamson as it relates to treating our staff respectfully. I appreciate the fact that you are all carrying out direction from the board. And I could share that Rachel and Mike have been very helpful with answering concerns from constituents. So want to echo those comments. This has been a long process with a lot of various attempts to make it work for residents and trying to establish ways to make this more affordable. But as I'm looking at what we have before us today, despite our best attempts to try and make this work, this is simply something that's not going to work for the people that we serve. It'll work for this agency, but I would just ask my colleagues as we're making a determination on how to vote on this to ask ourselves, what are we prioritizing? Are we prioritizing organizational efficiency and cost savings? Or are we prioritizing the quality of life for the people that we serve? And it's very clear to me as we're looking at what's before us, it is in the interest of Monterey One Water as an organization to move forward with it, but it's not in the interest of Monterey One Water as a public service agency. And it's not in the interest of our constituents to move forward in this direction. When we discussed this at the February 2024 meeting, I had a lot of questions. It was my first board meeting of Monterey One Water. I had a lot of questions and staff answered every question that I had. And one of those questions that I had posed was the impact this was going to have on people moving from paying on a bi-monthly basis to potentially every 6 months. And what was mentioned to me at the time was that we would have a monthly payment option through the easy pay process with the county. That provided me a little bit more relief, which is why I voted in favor of the implementation plan, recognizing that the final vote would still come before us. What I did not know at the time was that the monthly payment applied to the entire property tax bill, not only to the Monterey One Water bill. And that's what makes it so that I cannot support this today, because I would support something that would establish a monthly payment option for this one bill in particular, but I represent a lot of constituents that are one paycheck away from a serious financial hardship that could result in housing insecurity. And as I look at the lens in which we're going to make this decision, I do ask myself, who's going to benefit and who's going to be harmed by this policy? And I do believe that this policy will disproportionately impact senior citizens on a fixed income, and it will disproportionately impact marginalized communities who struggle financially. And I say that as someone with lived experience. I grew up in Section 8 housing. I grew up in a single parent household. I don't have to theorize what that would look like financially for my family. I've been there. And the truth is, yes, it's a bill that is $150 potentially bi-monthly that'll be changed to $600 every 6 months. And I understand that financial reality, but I'm not going to sit here and tell someone who's a single parent on a fixed income, just save your money and pay the larger amount in 6 months. Because what could happen is your tire could pop when you're driving and suddenly you have a $300 expense that you didn't account for that month. Someone could hit you, now you have a $500 expense. Your child could get sick, you can get sick, and all these expenses come up in that month that you didn't take into consideration, didn't budget for beforehand, that is going to make you unable to pay that much larger bill 6 months down the road. And so for me, what I'm thinking is if we can provide an easier payment option to people in our current format, why complicate it? Why make it more difficult? Why put additional barriers for the quality of life for our constituents? That just doesn't make sense to me. And so I would just ask this board to be very mindful of those real impacts that it's going to have on people's lives. Because I understand changing course now for some could feel that it's such a big waste of time. I don't see it that way. I see changing course now as us recognizing this can go really bad and we have a chance to stop it before it becomes reality. And also I'll point out that I'm not adverse to making difficult decisions. That is part of your role as an elected official. But what I consider a difficult decision is when you have a lot of people on one end that view a certain thing a certain way and a lot of other people in the public view it differently. Not a single member of the public who spoke today in public comment spoke in support of this change. And so I don't see this as a difficult decision. I see this as a matter of listening to our constituents or telling us, we understand the organizational efficiency that will come from this, but we're not interested. We want to maintain our current billing practices as they are because they make sense for us financially. And so with that, I would make a motion to not proceed with this change. And I move that we maintain our current billing practice as it is and not proceed with changing this to be put on the property tax rules. Thank you.
Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Okay, we'll continue discussion. Who would like to go, please?
So, in listening to everybody's comments this evening and trying to put this all together in my brain, one, we're not a utility like PG&E, California American Water, that can go off and turn you off if you don't pay your bill. We can't do that. We can't go drive a cork in the pipe. Doesn't work that way. We have to provide service. So to the folks that mentioned that it was unfair, if Tyler doesn't pay his bill and I pay my bill, he's getting the service for free and we're subsidizing his service. So I just want to make sure that's clear. We don't have the opportunity or the means to stop service to somebody's house. You flush, we get it. Period, end sentence. That's number one. Number two, and I respect Anthony's position a lot on money, but that same tire can blow out on the month that the $52 is due. My kid could get sick on the same $52. It's not changing anything but the collection method. Rather than being once every 2 months, it's going to be once every 6 months. That may be a difficult thing for people to swallow, but it's not raising any fee. It's the same dollar. If my house payment has a impound account on it, it's based on $52 a month for 12 months. And if it's based on 46, because that was what our last rate was, whatever it was, my bank will send me a thing and say, we need to adjust this, and I adjust it and I move forward. It's not, to me, it doesn't make any difference whether the $52 comes out every other month or the $52 comes out twice a month, twice a year. It's the total comes out twice a year. The 52 times 6, 300. So that's my point, is I just don't see the financial burden that we're placing on people. And I could be completely wrong. I'm retiring in 3 months. So, and you can thumbs down me all you want. You can, and it's fine. I'm retiring in 6 months. Actually less than 6 months. Pardon?
Please, pardon me. The time for public comment is over, and I just want to make sure that we can follow the proceedings appropriately. Because if we continue to let you make comments, then the expectation is that anybody in the public can make comments. So I just want to make sure we respect the process for everybody's sake.
With that, I've made my point. You're not taking it out of somebody's mouth or adding to the fees and what you're taking out of someone's pocket. You're merely changing the way you collect it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Chair Williamson. Appreciate it. I do understand that there's some concerns from the public. Obviously, we've heard a lot tonight. However, in my view, it's simply a change in the manner of collection, and the cost is not going to go up. So I think that there were some misconceptions delivered on the podium relating to the cost. I think some of them were done in order to kind of like stoke the flames a little bit, but I do not agree that the cost is going to go up based on this. In fact, with the tax rolls, you get the county, the Easy Smart Pay option. So that actually makes it into a monthly payment, which is actually easier to make than a bi-monthly payment. I've always wondered about the bi-monthly payment myself, and why it is the way it is. But there is a monthly option. So if your home becomes unaffordable based on the taxes and the other fees, the other attendant fees on the actual document itself, then you must avail yourself of the Easy Smart Pay option. I think that it makes it's good that we're not going to be placing liens if this were to pass. I'm not sure if it's going to pass or not. I'm in favor of the recommendations, which is like 1, 2, 3 listed in the staff report. But and I'm not supportive of the motion on the floor. But I would say that whether or not the cost is not really an issue in my mind. Let me just take a look at some notes I was actually making during the public comment. So we are going to get a savings as an agency, which is good for the public. It is good for the constituents and the 58,000 customers, because that they're going to receive a benefit of potentially increased service or investment back into the plant. We've been doing since I've been on the board for the last, I don't know, 7 years, I think 6 years. We've been investing in the infrastructure. So we've been doing a ton of that. We're going to work on the Pure Water Monterey project so that to make water more affordable for everybody. So these are the things that I think about when I think about, I can theoretically understand that there is like a potential person out there that this could negatively affect theoretically. I can kind of visualize that. However, given the fact that the costs aren't increasing, I don't agree that is the case. I think that it's more just not understanding exactly what we're doing with this. And also, I know that the staff has given a lot of opportunities for the public to make comment on this issue, because we've had, I think, 2 or 3 meetings at our council about this. We had this item on, and we had folks calling in, and we also had people coming up to the podium and talking, and Mr. Shuto answering questions at our meetings even. So, and this is not, it's not a Pacific Grove driven item. It's a agency driven item. So, what else do I have? I mean, overall, I don't want to talk too long here, but overall, to me, everything has to pass a cost benefit analysis. If the cost of the policy is not outweighed by the benefit, then you do not do the policy. But in this instance, I do think that the benefits to the agency, to the people who are served by the agency, to the use of fees, infrastructure, I think it is outweighed by any potential costs there might be. And so I am going to support, if the motion's made, the recommended actions.
Anybody else? Please.
Yep. I like all the information that you pulled out. I agree. I was hoping to see all those questions answered, so I'm glad they are. And I got to agree with Nick that I live in Castroville, and we've run it through our community. We've got some big landlords in Castroville who I thought would be against it, and they're not. And we also talked to a lot of just individual residents, and we didn't get any negative feedback, mainly because of what Nick's saying. We're not it's not increasing the cost, and we have Easy Smart Pay. I was looking at an opt-out also until Easy Smart Pay came along. Once the county approved Easy Smart Pay, there's your out right there. If you can't afford to pay your $52 a month 2 times a year, well, I bet you can't afford to pay your taxes in 2 times a year, and that monthly Easy Smart Pay would be very, very beneficial to you. So I think, and then all the negative I heard on next door, most of that was basically that you could answer them with Easy Smart Pay that they were complaining about. So yeah, I can't support the motion on the floor.
Mr. Moore, I see your hand is up, and then we'll go to Mayor Carbone.
Yes, thank you very much. So there was a concern expressed that if we do this, then the next thing you know, Cal-Am, Cal Water, PG&E will be putting fees onto the tax roll. Now, our general manager partly addressed that by saying that doesn't work very well, because we have to tell once a year in the summer the county tax assessor's office how much to charge for each property. But I'll ask this question, Mr. Gilpin. isn't there another reason why we won't ever see? I mean, after all, there are some private utilities, including Cal-Am, in Monterey County that run wastewater treatment and collection perhaps on fixed fee basis. Why couldn't they be added to the property tax rolls? Those private utilities.
You always ask me hard questions on the fly, Tom, but fundamentally, I think Paul recognized this or acknowledged this, that we are a public utility. The code that allows this is open to public agencies, not private. And the CPUC sets the rates for those private utilities. I'll confess, I don't know if they have a process that would allow those people to exercise right on the tax rolls, but this section does not.
Okay, thank you.
Are those all your comments for now?
No, for the moment.
Okay, Mayor Carbone.
Yes, thank you, Chair Williams. So I have had presentations at the City of Sand City, and I have not had anyone oppose this in our city. Also, it has gone in front of the Seaside Sanitary Sewer District, which represents 3 of the cities. And the recommendation from that agency also was to move forward with this decision here this evening. I do know that special districts can put levy a tax, I guess, on the property, on the county property assessors rules, but I have not heard of any other public utilities doing this. So even though our city is small, I am, I am representing them. And so with that, I feel very, I hear what everyone's saying, and I myself will be paying sewer fees for 4 homes myself. And, I'm going to have to learn to go along with paying through the county tax assessor if we go in this direction. So, and I'll have to make changes because I like, paying with money and that. So this is really going to be a change for me as well. And I am a fixed income senior person, retired, who is doing probably 80 hours a week in service, for our community. And yes, there's hard decisions here, but we do have to, keep our agency, trying to keep our agency. Speaking for the agency tonight at this meeting. And there are the easy pay, and there is going to be some ways to help more the people who's disadvantaged or who needs that help with through the agency to help them make those bills if they pay those bills if they need the help. So with that, that's my comment for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Kent, I'm going to check in with you. We're just checking in to make sure. Did you have any comment that you wanted to add at this point, Kent?
I have not heard you.
Time delay, he's so far away.
Although I am sympathetic to some of the public comments, I do think that there would have to be some more vetting in terms of property owners and renters to make sure that there's no unfair upcharges. Because in many instances, the property owners take care of the a lot of the utilities, and so I would want to make sure that that there's information that went out to the renters for the changes, and that there is no change in the fee itself, in case the property owner decided to jack up the fees over from where it is. And then as far as we have talked a lot about this, and there has been a lot of outreach, and I know that some of those people didn't see the earlier notifications, but we have been doing this for a year and a half. And I do feel that because that there's no changes in the fees itself, and for the fact that, as Rachel said, that we're going to move forward with looking at, or Paul did mention that we're going to look into different ways to make it more equitable in terms of households and how we bill. I support the original motion. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor?
Thank you. I'll echo the comments and appreciation of the public comment and taking the time out of your evening to engage and show up and share your stories and ask your questions. I think it really helps like this make better informed decisions. And it's never easy to hear from one group of people and realize, how do you balance those whose voices are here and those whose voices aren't here at the same time. And I think with the needs of the district. So those are always factors that I'm trying to consider. It's also hard to walk into a meeting where this conversation's been happening for a year and a half, and I'm filling in for my colleague who is the primary voice here representing the county. So I acknowledge those things. I want to say thank you to the staff. Clearly, you've done some fairly extensive outreach. It's really hard to reach everyone. I get that, but I appreciate the outreach work that's gone in. I know I don't attend here, but we've been trying to push information out through all the channels that I communicate with residents as well. And here, looking for feedback just so that we could share it with Glenn. And I also just want to acknowledge, based on some of the comments today, everyone who sits up here is also elected public servants. And with the exception of myself, where I'm full-time with the county, everyone who sits here is a volunteer, here because they love their community, because they care about making sure that their residents' voices are represented. And, it's hard to hear some of the comments that were made when you guys are sitting here. So I just want to acknowledge that everyone who's here is here because they want to do right by their community. So I heard a whole bunch of stuff. I think clearly there's forever going to be the need for ongoing research or ongoing outreach to the community, both to make sure that people understand, what a public utility, what the role of our public utility is, the fact that, 85–90% of the costs are fixed in nature. So whether you have, you're using 100 gallons or 1,000 gallons, it's the pipes that are the cost. That dictates sort of how we have to move forward. There's so much information that we get to study because I sit in meetings all day and read these, 1,000-page reports every week, that we have access to information, but how we get that communicated out to the public, I think is always a challenge. And clearly there's more that we can do for that. That was also the conversation I had with Glenn before this meeting was, clearly we need to continue to do outreach regardless of whatever happens. I also just want to give an acknowledgement to Mary Zeeb, who's our countywide elected, publicly elected treasurer tax collector. Her department does exceptional work collecting all the taxes, distributing funds, managing all of the accounts for so many of our public agencies. For her team to get the Easy Pay system up and running, it's been a big lift for them. And it turns out it's been incredibly beneficial to not just Monterey 1 water users, but county-wide payers, because until that happened, we didn't have an option for people to pay their property tax bills and other assorted fees on a monthly basis. So it's been a really good thing for the county. And I think you guys sort of led us to push on that a little faster than normal. I'm inclined to support the staff recommendation, given the path that you've been on. However, I do think there are some questions that remain outstanding, and getting information about, for those who would be negatively impacted or do have fixed incomes where this does become a challenge. I understand there's a support, what is it?
Customer assistance
A
program?
customer assistance program. And some of the folks who we heard speak today, I'd be hard pressed to believe that they didn't qualify for customer assistance of some sort. So figuring out how to make sure that that's as robust as possible, potentially even taking some of the savings and putting, reinvesting that back into supporting their customers who need it most. I tend to say, like, there's a lot of waste or accusations of waste in government, and an opportunity for us to be efficient and effective in delivering high quality services that all residents need is important. So at this point, I appreciate the conversation. I really appreciate the comments. And I'm also, like I said, balancing, we heard voices here tonight. We hear voices out in the community. We have data that tells us about who our residents are. We hear and read data, information about what the role of the district is, and looking at all of that information in its totality is really what I sit with here, trying to balance all of those different interests and needs.
Okay. I appreciate the healthy dialogue, actually. Oh, I apologize, Mr. Moore.
Yes, thank you very much. First off, I have to apologize to the board for being on U.S. Navy business here in Washington, D.C., and dumping this rather tough public hearing into Vice Chair Williamson's lap. And I must say, he, I think, has done a masterful job, essentially as your master of ceremonies on a tough one.
Did this on
Yes.
purpose. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it might have been. Exactly. Okay, I have the orders that. Never mind. So I've listened to the folks from the public. I too have looked at Nextdoor. It's unfortunate that some of the argument seems to stem from just a general dislike of government, and perhaps not a thorough understanding of how it works. And we try our best, and Rachel and Mike and our general manager try their best to communicate clearly, but this is an agency that has a critical public health job to keep the public safe from bad waters that we all flush down our toilets and wash through our washing machines. And that costs money. We certainly have no control over what suppliers charge us for chlorine or construction firms charge us for pipe. And so it's a complex business we're engaged in. No surprise if some of the public, which are working their own day jobs and trying to live their own lives, don't fully understand us. So that being said, I think I'm going to still, looking at all the comments tonight and the potential financial savings for our ratepayers, which will translate into not having to charge them as much in the future as we otherwise would have, I'm inclined to support the staff recommendation also. Thank you.
Thank you for the additional comments there. So I think the big thing that comes to my mind in regards to this and any other challenging changes. Change is hard. And I think there's always a fear of the unknown in regards to what that transition looks like. I do want to acknowledge though, and I truly appreciate the deeper dive in and dialogue in regards to some of the concerns expressed around this. I think the most compelling thing that gives me a little bit of pause as we have this conversation is the idea that the folks that aren't showing up here today, that aren't hearing or maybe are somehow missing the messages that are being put out, and the impact that it's going to have on them. That's the thing that gives me pause, because if they don't know it's coming, they don't recognize it. The seniors on fixed incomes that are just comfortable in having things done the way that they have been done. I get that. And I really feel for those folks. I keep that top of mind, just as along with everybody else that's that falls under our agency as ratepayers. And so I think staff is hearing this as well. And I think given the sense of where we're going tonight with potential implementation, I think that we're going to do whatever we can to reach folks. But I think the comment has been made. It's like anything, any kind of change, you're always going to miss folks. And that's, nothing is intentional there. Nobody's intentionally trying to leave a group out. And I think we're using the vehicles and avenues that we can to try to help disseminate that. And regardless of the way that this goes, if we do move forward, I think we encourage feedback and input from the public in regards to how can we do that better, because we are a public agency and we're accountable to our ratepayers. I want to echo the comments that Mr. Moore made just now in regards to the dislike for government. I think that that's definitely a sentiment that I've felt in regards to the path that the agency has been going on in regards to the transition to the tax rolls. One of the things that I reflect about over my experience as being an elected official is this kind of whole conversation around how much government is too much. I worked for the Naval Postgraduate School for 13 years. The DoD is the largest bureaucracy in the entire world by itself. And I do HR. So talk about bureaucracy, I see it. And now I work for the VA, the second largest bureaucracy in the United States. I get it. I actually appreciate that perspective in a way that I didn't before I got into public service, which is one of the reasons why I support this policy, because it actually helps create efficiency and makes the operation of what we do for the people that we serve better. And in the end, we actually get savings out of it. I just want to use this as an opportunity to share with my partner agencies. One of the things that the city of Monterey did in partnership with M1W after we implemented the customer assistance program was allocated a line item in our budget and from our general fund to help cover the cost associated with the sewage fee from the city's cost, right? So does anybody know off the top of their head what the sewage fee is in Monterey?
Going to be about $14.
$14. Okay, so the $52 from M1W, we have funding available for the customer assistance program for that portion until the city of Monterey created our budget line item to help cover the $14. The folks that were participating in the customer assistance program still had to pay that $14. Now we've allocated that funding. So the folks that are approved to be part of the customer assistance program, which now through the transition to the tax rolls covers 4 months of fees. So 1/3 of that entire cost, which that wouldn't be possible if we stayed in the bi-monthly payments, can now be completely paid for by the customer assistance programs for those that need it the most. So when we're talking about making sure that we're building that connective tissue for those that are most impacted, I think a big part of that is just making folks aware that this is an opportunity that's available for them, to make sure that not only do they have awareness in regards to how to pay their bill, but they're actually paying less than what they would have because of the customer assistance program. So for all of us in the room, I think utilizing that and helping to share that and spread that word, I think can do a lot of good towards helping folks. And then I just wanted to respond to a comment that was made around the idea of us trying to do this in a sneaky way. I can't take away from somebody's feelings and how they come to that conclusion, but I can tell you, for me sitting in this seat and acting in my role as a representative of the ratepayers in the city of Monterey and for the entire district, I've seen nothing but transparency in this process. I don't see anything being done behind closed doors. We've had several public meetings. And again, this doesn't mean that we're doing everything that we can to reach people. I'm all about the number one reason that I got into public service was to create a space for more people to be engaged in the political process. So if anybody has ideas around how this agency can do this better, let's all work together to figure that out. So folks, there might be folks that are unhappy with the direction that the way that the city goes. I'm sorry, with the way that the agency goes. But after the decision is made, let's move forward to make sure that we can all support each other in regards to how the rollout of this is going to occur. Okay, I think I've spoken enough. Please.
May I just ask a question?
Yes.
And this is actually a procedural question. I apologize for my ignorance on Robert's rules, but if I'm not mistaken, the motion on the floor, the first and the second, is to not go with the staff recommendation, correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
It's
so
17 are currently.
Jim, or
Could I just try something real quick? Just, it may get to where you're trying to go.
I just don't understand how that would necessarily work under Robert's rules.
Well, if I could I do a substitute motion to approve the staff recommendation?
Yes.
I second that.
All right, there's a second. Does that kind of, so we're going to do the vote on the substitute motion first, and then we'll figure out from there if we need to go back to the original motion.
That's great, whatever.
Okay, any final comments in regards to, please?
I just want to extend my appreciation to my colleagues for the dialogue, getting to hear from everyone's perspectives. It's great. At the end of the day, I would just share with my colleagues that anytime you're asking disadvantaged communities to make a lump sum payment, it's a difficult reality. And so that would be my last comment on this. I would request for a weighted vote on this substitute question. And those are all my comments. Thank you.
So I actually had a note here and I couldn't understand what my note was, but it kind of gets to, I think, one of the points that you were making. Just to get this thought out, if folks are struggling to be able to pay their bill, I guess I'm a little bit of a loss in regards to if there's an opportunity for them to pay their taxes on a monthly basis now.
Entirety of their taxes.
Right. But I guess I just don't understand. Right now, they're paying their taxes twice a year. That's a huge lump sum. With the easy pay, that goes to monthly. So it makes it easier for people to kind of pace that out on a monthly basis. And even though that payment throughout their overall year it increases, I think I struggle to see the logic in regards to where the challenge is to pay their property tax on a monthly basis. There's really no change as it relates to M1W. In fact, you're paying it monthly now as opposed to bi-monthly. So,
well, for some people, depending on the kind of loan they have in their house, the cushion they're gonna have to set aside is gonna increase.
The cushion?
So some loans, and I'm not a property owner, so I'm gonna try and explain this to the best of my abilities, but as at our city council meeting, there were members of the public that came before us and said, there is a cushion amount that you have to set aside in your property tax payment, your mortgage. And so that cushion amount is going to increase when you have an additional fee that is going to be part of your mortgage.
Right, so that's a monthly payment, right? So your monthly payment there is going up, but you're getting rid of your bi-monthly payment from M1W.
But the
So
cushion on your monthly mortgage is going to go up. So you're not, so you're, go ahead.
Could I help just expand on it maybe to what you're saying? So it was what I was trying to say earlier, and I didn't do it clearly, is if the $52, I'm just using that, or the $68 goes on the tax roll and is part of the impound account, a mortgage broker, an impound broker will ask for a cushion. So you're absolutely right. Generally speaking, it's about 2 months cushion. So in this instance, let's 68 times 2, I'm going to round up to $170 or $140, excuse me, it's getting late. That amount will have to be paid over a year time frame. And then once it's paid in there and that cushion's there, that additional dollars per month will stop and it'll go right back to normal. But what we're hearing from the mortgage industry, it's generally 2 to 3 months of cushion. It's a limited amount, but it's in there. You're absolutely right.
but you're not paying anymore. They're just creating that cushion so that way, just in case there's fees that go up, you're only ever going to pay the fees associated with your taxes. They're not going to just take it and keep it.
Well, you'll put an additional 2 to 3 months in, and it'll take about a year to get that in there. And then after that first year of adding to the cushion, then it'll go back to the $52.
Okay.
So there is a slight increase to establish the cushion. May I do it? Correct. That's not the county doing anything. That is our mortgage brokers
mortgage.
and so on that establish those fees. And it can be different between different types of loans and such, but generally speaking, what we're seeing is that 2 to 3 months.
But again, I think if folks are struggling and they qualify, they can have the opportunity to participate in the customer assistance.
Which is $300,000 set aside for 285,000 people we serve.
Which
so
not
that
all of
amount
them need to participate in the customer assistance program.
Correct, but right now as it stands, $175,000 have been spoken for, and we're making this change, and we've already closed the customer assistance program for new applicants.
For homeowners.
No, for new applicants altogether.
No,
it's
for
only
renters,
renters.
it'll
Okay.
open up. So that, yes, for homeowners, but for renters, we'll open it up for the remainder of the amount.
Understood. Okay. Which is about 125,000, I believe.
That's what the board has allocated thus far. Yeah. I believe there was a question that came up earlier on the fee for Easy Smart Pay, and there was some discrepancy on what was said in a public meeting. My understanding on Easy Smart Pay, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you can access Easy Smart Pay, and as long as it's with an ACH on a monthly basis, there's no fee. If you want to use a credit card, there is a fee. But what they have said is they, meaning Easy Smart Pay, as they get some of the larger counties throughout California, that may go away, but we can't bet on that. So
Right now, you just have the option of the ACH payment
if for no fee. If it's a credit card, then there is a fee. And that, I don't know how much that fee is.
It's usually 3%.
If I want to use a credit card, it's 1.99%. Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to jump to Chair Moore. I see your hand up, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. So I don't know if this will help Director Roach at all on this vote. And I certainly don't know how the vote's going to turn out here in a moment, but if it turns out that the board approves the staff recommendation tonight, I would also like to ask staff to bring a future agenda item after they've had a chance to work with Easy Smart Pay to find out if there is some flexibility in that system so that, for example, only the wastewater service fee or only the service fees below the line on this property tax bill issued by the county could be paid on a monthly basis, and then the property tax amount above the line paid as typically twice a year. I don't know if that'll help, but if it does pass, I would like to ask for that future agenda item from staff.
One
Thank
more
you.
comment, Chair.
Please.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up is as we're discussing the community assistance program is we set aside $300,000, and I want to thank the board for the additional 100,000. It was 200,000 before, but one thing that became very evident was the reason we had to stop the applications for homeowners was because we were just getting inundated with all the applications. So we had to set aside some money for renters. And what I'm getting at altogether is the amount of money we're setting aside for our current needs, I would argue is not enough. And I think that the need for more money is going to only be there as we make this change. So I would just ask my board member colleagues to be mindful of the potential for further increasing the community assistance program because we're already at capacity, if not exceeding it. And I think that need is only going to grow more.
So I would just add, I think that need exists regardless of whether or not we move forward, right? Like that need for supporting vulnerable community members exists with or without the transition to the tax rolls. So I agree with you. And I think it might create an opportunity for all of us to go back to our agencies and look at how we can better partner together to help support that, because the funding available within Monterey One Water is limited, and the source that we're using to be able to cover that cost is going to be going away if we make the transition to tax rolls. So I think that there just creates an opportunity there. So your point is well taken.
Well, just to be clear, I think it's a difference of opinion on whether or not the need will grow based on this change that you and I share. A difference of opinion on that.
I'm just saying in regards to folks being able to pay the fee and all the expenses that are going up in people's lives.
No,
right?
I know,
Like-
but what I'm saying is I think this need will grow with this change that we're making.
Okay.
And so just take note, I think it's a difference of opinion on that.
Okay.
No, just was gonna
All right.
call the question.
All right. Let's do roll call vote, please.
Clarify that the substitute motion
Substitute.
on the floor is to approve staff recommendation and basically collect the fees on the property tax roll made by Vice Chair Williamson and seconded by Director Stefani. And it was called with the weighted vote by Director Rocha. Sand City,
Aye.
Seaside,
No.
Veranda,
Yes.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
No.
County of Monterey,
Yes.
Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
Yes.
Motion fails. Via weighted vote, 13 yes and 9 no.
Okay, so do we go to the original motion? I'm not sure if it makes a difference, but I guess procedurally.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, you go back to the original one.
Okay. All right, let's do roll call vote, please.
And I would like to call for a weighted vote on the original motion as well.
I just have a point of clarification. So the motion needs a 2/3.
Correct.
Okay, and so the motion to approve the staff recommendation didn't get 2/3 to pass, so we go back to so effectively it won't move forward regardless. Okay, I just wanted to
Can
make
I-
sure I'm tracking the motions correctly.
Can I clarify the 2/3? How is that interpreted in regards to the vote? I mean, it seems like we're interpreting it as weighted vote, but is that clear from a legal perspective in regards to the interpretation of the 2/3 vote?
Yes, you needed a 2/3 vote of the board. And the call was for weighted votes. We calculate it based on the weighted vote.
So it doesn't matter, Your Honor, may I?
Yes, please.
It doesn't matter, Mr. Gilpin, that we had 2/3 of the actual body voting in favor of the,
And that's why I
of
was
the
asking, because
substitute
that was
question?
what was communicated earlier in the meeting.
Because there were at least, how many,
It
7?
was 8-2 straight, but 9-13
Uh-huh.
under weighted.
Correct.
So your legal interpretation is that,
Anytime there's a call for a weighted vote, the weighted vote applies.
okay.
All right, so roll call vote, please.
And that's on the original motion to not proceed with this change and maintain our current billing process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sand City,
Can you repeat the motion? I'm sorry.
It's to not approve staff's recommendation.
Well, no, the motion is to maintain our current billing process.
So to maintain the current process.
And not transition over
Don't-
the
So
property. tax.
basically not transitioning to the tax rolls. So a yes vote keeps it the same as a bi-monthly, and a no vote
Is against that.
Goes nowhere.
is in opposition to that methodology.
Well, I think there's probably a point of order here. If that's really what the motion is, there's the motion is moot because the staff recommendation did not go forward. So
Huh.
I understood
Correct.
yours as simply almost a motion to table for further consideration into the future. But if that was not your motion, then
No,
it's
not for
moot.
further
Okay.
consideration, just to maintain our current billing process.
Could I ask a point of clarification? And it's to staff, but also the colleagues that aren't supporting it moving forward as well. If we look at reintroducing an opt-out option, would that be something that is possible at this point?
Are you asking the maker of the motion? You're asking-
Well, from a technical perspective, I'm asking staff, but also
From a staff perspective, we could do an opt-out similar to what we discussed back in, God, February? Was that the only time? Did we also say it in, I guess it was just February. So we could do that. That was based on a 2-year opt-out.
So you eventually got into the tax roll after 2 years. That was
Ye-
the max. So that's why it got taken off the table.
So we could do that if the board directs us to. We did not include it in the implementation plan because that wasn't the board direction in February.
is that something that
I appreciate the effort there. I'm gonna stand by my decision. I would not like to see this move to the property taxes whatsoever. And I would like to move on to the next item of the agenda if possible.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion? Alrighty. All right, with that, we will move on to item number 10A. Consider confirming and setting the sewer services charge and rates effective July 1, 2024, as shown in approved Appendix A to ordinance number 2021-02.
Thank you, Chair Williamson. So this is what we brought before the committee earlier. This is just, once again, trying to be open on what our rates have done and the Prop 218 process that we have gone through, excuse me. So this is just confirming the rates of that last Prop 218 and moving forward with them for this fiscal year. You'll note that on Appendix A, it has all the categories of our agency and what the new rates are going to be for them. That is also reflective in the ordinance that was done in 2021 that you see on the back here. So once again, this is just a confirmation of something the board has already acted on.
Any questions for staff from the board?
As I understand, this is just moving forward with what was already approved several years ago as the rate structure for the 5-year time period, correct?
Yes.
Okay, understand. Thank you.
I'll
Right.
make a motion to approve 10A.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's go out to the public for comment. Anybody in the room, please. And if anybody on Zoom wants to speak on this item, please use the raise hand
I
function.
don't think they should get they should get their increase when they're gaining $400,000 by putting it on our tax roll.
We just voted it
Hold
down.
on, hold on, everybody. Let's let her do her public comment. Please go ahead and finish.
Sorry, just trying to clear it.
Okay, so what I understand is that if they don't have to bill, they gain $400,000 a year by not billing. That's what I understand. So why should they get an increase over the next 3 years, which is what's already been approved? But why should they get their increase when they're already gaining money? Plus, they sell the recycled water. And from what I learned from last week's Salinas Council meeting, the water doesn't even come back to the city. So they're gaining everything. They're gaining on 3 different levels.
you. Anybody else want to speak on this item? All right, we'll check online. Anybody on Zoom? Once again, just make sure you use the raise hand function. All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back. And just to clarify, we're not moving forward with the transition to the tax roll, so there's no savings of 400,000. Staff, did you want to clarify anything else in regards to the comments?
If our attorney could weigh in and just so that the public understands what the vote that just was.
You've already approved the rate increases. All we're doing tonight is confirming that those rates are going into effect July 1st. The staff feels this increases the transparency to the public, which we've heard comments relative to. So just implementation of the rate study that was approved 5 years ago. In fact, on the last item, you did not approve this going on to the tax roll, so there will not be any savings of $400,000. So.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? All right, roll call vote, please. Oh, yeah, there was a motion. Sorry, it's late.
Sand City,
Aye.
Seaside,
Aye.
Veranda, Delray Oaks,
Aye.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey. Aye. Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
Yes.
Motion carries 9 yes and 1 absent.
Can I add something? I think that the audience, they were basing it on a counted vote. They don't, believe, understand when somebody asks for a weighted vote,
What that
each
meant.
one of these cities have a different vote count. And so when one of them asked for a weighted vote, even though 2 of them voted, they between the 2 of them added up to 9 votes. So that's why it didn't go through.
Thank you for clarifying that, Tim.
Yeah, that's actually really,
Thank
really
you.
good observation.
It did not go through. No, that's okay. That's fine.
Apologies for the lack of clarity, but thank you, Tammy, for clarifying that. All right, with that, we'll move on to item B, consider adoption of resolution number 2024-10, authorizing the general manager to act as the authorized agent for and on behalf of Monterey One Water to execute the applicant declaration form and match commitment letter for the community energy reliability and resilience investment program.
The State of California Energy Commission administers the Community Energy Reliability and Investment Program. This program invests in deployment projects across California that increase community energy, reliability, and resilience in support of California climate and energy policies. Monterey One Water, in coordination with a grant consultant, is pursuing funding for this program to support the Monterey Renewable Energy and Utility Reliability Program of Energy Transmission. The grant will have costs associated with the interconnection electrical system, Monterey One Water Regional Treatment Plant, the Salinas Valley Reclamation Project, and the Advanced Water Purification Facility, with an estimated cost of $7.5 million. This integration allows Monterey One Water to reduce its PG&E power demand significantly, reducing greenhouse emissions and aligning with the state and federal environmental policies. As part of the grant application, we must submit a declaration form that was attached to the package. The form requests that we declare in the form that we're not delinquent on taxes or suspended by the California Franchise Tax Board. In addition, we must submit a match funding commitment letter. And the letter should include the source of the funds, the justification of the dollar, and it guarantees the availability of the funds. The staff is proposing that the funds for the match come from the construction of the RTP 21 kV electrical system that is currently in the fiscal year 24-25 plan approved by the board. And that will be used as a match. The minimum match for this grant is 33.33%. Anything above that match gives us more points. This application actually gives more points if you give more match. Resolution 2410 authorizes the general manager to send the applicant declaration form and match commitment letter to submit with the SERI application. The fiscal impact, right now, there is no fiscal impact. If awarded, we will come back to the board to award any contracts under this program. A staff requests that the board of directors adopt resolution 2010 authorizing the general manager to act as the authorized agent for and on behalf of Monterey Water to execute the applicant declaration form and match commitment letter for the Community Energy Reliability and Resilience Investment Program. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, board members? All right, seeing none, we'll take out for public comment. Anybody in the chamber wish to speak on this item? Anybody online, you can use the raise hand function via Zoom. Alrighty, not seeing any, so I'll bring it back to the board for motion and consideration.
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
And Marianne has her hand raised.
That was to make a motion. Laura. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Sand City,
Yes.
Seaside,
Aye.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey,
I,
Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
Yes.
Motion carries 9 yes and 1 absent.
Okay, moving on to C, consider award of contract of Ed Bailey for Inflation Reduction Act tax consultant services in the not to exceed amount of $1,299,625.
The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 IRA enables entities like Monterey Water to take advantage of certain energy tax credits through its elected pay provision, also known as the direct pay. The IRS also enables Monterey Water to file an annual tax returns with the IRS to claim for the credit under the investment credit. Under this credit, Monterey Water can potentially file a return to receive up to 40% credit for the renewable energy programs. There is no cap on how much an individual entity can receive under this section. And once you receive the tax return, it's up to the entity how they want to spend that money. So there are no restrictions associated with the tax return. Due to the complexities of these credits and in order to achieve the maximum credits available for Monterey Water, staff issued a request for proposals on April 8, 2024 for the Inflation Reduction Act tax consultant services. These services will allow the agency to identify and quantify opportunities available under the IRA. 2 proposals were received. Staff reviewed the proposals and interviewed both firms, and it determined that Ed Bailey is the qualified consultant to provide these services. The fiscal impact, this item is budgeted in fiscal year 2024, and it will continue into fiscal year 28 or 29. The staff requests that the board of directors award a consultant services a contract to Ed Bailey for Inflation Reduction Act tax consultant services in the not to exceed amount of $1,299,625. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions?
A brief question, in regards to the funding source for this is just general fund dollars used to fund okay, and then the revenue that comes back in will flow back to the general fund. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So just a silly question, are we gonna get 1.3 million back in our first year? I think that's the bottom line. If we're gonna spend 1.3, we should get at least 1.3 back. I mean, what's the estimate? I'm guesstimate. I'm assuming you're dealing with taxes, so you know how that goes.
I can tell.
Well, and also, Johanna, can you talk about how this is going to be paid? That 1.3 million is over a 3-year period or 4-year period and such?
Yeah, so this is gonna break down into multiple fiscal years. We estimate that the first phase in which we will, the consultant will look at all of our projects and give us a number as to how much we're getting back will be in a phase 1. If we determine that we don't, it's gonna be less than 1.2, then, we have some items to talk about there. We're not gonna spend the 1.2 on the first phase, it's across multiple phases.
Okay.
First phase, it's estimated maybe 350 to 400,000.
Okay.
And that will determine how much we could potentially get back. The minimum is around, starts at a 6%, can go all the way to 40%.
Yeah. And what is our bill? What is our renewable energy bill?
So right now, we're in the middle of a project that's about $8.25 million. And so because I like easy math, she said 6 to 40%. Let's just say it's 10%. So that's $800,000 on the one project. As you well know, this is sort of a programmatic approach on all the renewable energy projects, which as Matt Thompson identified, I think it was
A lot
close,
of money.
like close to $30 million.
I don't try to keep all those numbers.
So
It hurts too much.
this is important to make sure that we do the steps we need to make sure that all those are eligible for potential tax credits. It is it's a bit of a gamble, but like Johanna says, it's over a period of
It's a
time.
not
So
to
at any
exceed.
time we can go, this isn't going to happen, or if something happens with the federal budget, we can pivot accordingly.
There's also a deadline to start construction on these projects to December 31st of this year.
Okay.
So that's why we want to start this process right now so that we can take full advantage of the tax.
Answer my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. So this is a tax credit against what types of taxes that we actually pay to the IRS?
We don't have an agency.
So being that we don't pay taxes, Tom, so being that the structure of a public agency, we would actually just get a reimbursement of, as Johanna said, let's say it's 10%, we get a 10% tax credit, we would get a check for 10% of the construction costs. So it's a reimbursement in our sense.
Okay, so, and this is for a fixed period of time, but is there a limit within the legislation that allows this? These are expenditures up until what date again?
There's not a limit up to when. There is a limit to start construction by the end of this. At least 5% of the construction.
So with the start of our digester project and gas project, it's a programmatic look. So all those projects that were on the capital improvement project list that went out into the future, in theory, would be eligible since there's no end date, as long as we start that one this year, which we have.
Okay. As long as we don't have any delays, and getting this money might help reduce delays. Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll go out for public comment. Anybody in the room want to make a comment? Online, folks use the raise hand function on Zoom. All right, with that, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion and deliberation.
I'll move approval, Your Honor.
Okay. Go ahead.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Sand City,
Yes.
Seaside,
Aye.
Delray Oaks,
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
County of Monterey,
Yes.
Pacific Grove,
Aye.
Castroville,
Yes.
Monterey,
Yes.
Marina Coast.
Yes.
Motion carries 9 yes and 1 absent.
All right, sorry, my brain's starting to shut down. Item number 11, information items, Pure Water Monterey update.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Chair Williamson. As far as Pure Water Monterey water production, as you know, the end of June closes out the accounting year for M1W's obligation of recharging 3,500 acre feet. M1W actually met that goal in late May. Congratulations. And that period between end of May, end of June, it looks like about 330 acre feet will go into reserves. Total reserves will be about 2,200 by the end of June. If you go back to inception, we're approaching 15,200 acre feet. This is the beginning of Pure Water Monterey. As far as the expansion project is going, we have the 2 main construction projects. Again, we're going to dispense with photos tonight. There's a lot going on, but both contractors are on schedule. key milestones, big pieces of equipment showing up, stainless steel casing for our wells, very encouraging. No safety issues, no accidents so far, and 1W is being reimbursed by our different funding sources. So far, so good. And it back to the chair for questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Item 12, staff reports.
I think I had a bunch, but with a long evening, I don't have any.
I'm going to go ahead and defer to Jose. He's going to briefly talk about SRDF, the fire that we had at the plant, because I thought Ron Stefani would be interested in that, and also Energia. So real quick, Cliff Note version.
Yeah, like I reported, thank you, Tammy, Chair Williamson and the board. Reported during the RWC that we did have a small brush fire at the plant. The response from staff was overwhelmingly good. We were able to contain it. By the time North County Fire showed up, they just kind of were there to pick up the pieces. Everything was out. We kind of did a fire break. The Energia project's moving forward with the digester upgrade, the mixer upgrades. We actually today started drawing down digester number 4, 1 and 3 are in complete. So with 4 will be the final one. Once 4 is empty, hopefully we'll be at the point of starting to fill number 2. And overall, this is the time of year where the agency is firing on all cylinders. As far as treatment and recycling, for the month of May, we've been pretty much as close to 100% capture as you can get, with really just the majority going out to the outfall being the RO concentrate anywhere between 0.8 to 1.3 MGD, depending on production. So,
And SRDF?
SRDF, we are trying to maximize as much as we can. We have at least 1 pump running 24/7 and 2 to 3 pumps, I would say, the remaining 80 to 90% of the day. We're taking about anywhere between 17 to 20 million gallons a day out of the river. Any questions?
Do the chair.
Please.
What started the fire?
We can't pinpoint exactly. We met with Regen because it was right on the property line. We suspect it could have been one of the pyros that we use for bird abatement. We have a bird abatement service and so do they. Where the fire started, it kind of, you could have pointed the finger at either one, but again, not 100% confirmed, but it was an area in the plant where no one was working and no one has really much access to it. So more than likely, if I had to bet, I'd say it was that.
We've mowed down the weeds since then.
That's right. That was the one recommendation from County Fire, just to kind of do a little bit more weed abatement.
It's over there by the solar panels.
Oh, yeah.
This conversation can't end without you sharing the interesting part of the story, though, about an animal that was saved.
That's right. We did manage to save a gopher. So that's been as close as we got to anybody getting hurt.
Thank you, Zane.
Thank you.
Anybody else from staff? All right.
All good.
Board member comments, reports.
I don't have any comments, Your Honor. However, I was going to suggest that we take the closed session items at the next regularly scheduled meeting, and if you were going that direction as well. Might be a minority opinion, but that would be my suggestion.
I'll check with staff to see if there's a need for us to go into closed session today.
If we could, so there's 3 items. If we could go over one of them, that would be very nice. That is one of the potential litigation items. And I'll make it even shorter than Jose's report was in closed session.
Okay. Any other board member comments? I just have to say, I'm trying not to rehash what we just went through today, but I can only imagine what Mike and Rachel must be feeling right now because of how much work, time, and energy you all put into this. See how much this agency has paid, and you are actually tangibly touching this stuff to see us not moving forward in that space. I just have to give you all your flowers. So appreciate you all so much for everything that you do. And I know that whatever project is next on your priority list, that you're going to just continue doing great work. So honestly, truly appreciate you both.
Sure. I also want to extend my appreciation to the both of you for all of your hard work, to the agency and to this board for the thoughtful discussion. It's great when you can engage in substantive public policy discussion, have a difference of opinion, and continue to work together as colleagues. And so I appreciate you all and this entire agency for that. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we are going to provide public comments for closed session items. So there are two items: conference with labor negotiators, and then there's also conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation.
Actually, based on the comments of the board, we'll be deferring item 15A, and we'll only be taking one item under 15B.
Okay, so we're only looking at conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Anybody on Zoom wish to speak on that closed session item, since there's nobody left in the chamber? All right, with that, we will go ahead and adjourn to closed session. Thank you, everybody.
Because I can leave on vacation.
I'll pass it to the attorney.
Yeah, it's 9:55. The board is adjourned from closed session and there is no reportable action.
All right, and with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.